because we are going to be talking about crazy stuff. But we always talk about crazy stuff, and everybody knows that. Everybody loves that. If you would hit like and share, you are watching JaysAnalysis. Tonight we're going to be covering an interesting topic that I covered many years ago in my first presentation, and we'll be reflecting on that almost 5 or 6 years ago. Seems like it was yesterday that I was doing my first big presentation at a big conference at the very fun, very entertaining Secret Space Program Conference. I'm sure everyone remembers that. And that talk had nothing to do with aliens, nothing to do with space bases and moon men and creeper butt touchers on other planets or faking Graylians. It had nothing to do with none of that. So before you accuse me, you don't even know. What was my talk on? My talk was on Breakaway Civilizations. Ian Fleming. Watch it. Again, it will parallel with Lord Voldemort's Saturday show. So we are going to piggyback. We're going to be piggybacking on Alex Jones, folks. Unbelievable piggybacking on my back. It's real. It is real. And what just happened? We had like 400 people and then it dropped down to 200. I don't understand what's going on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about the history of the notion of breakaway civilizations. We're going to be talking about the movies and the literature that has this theme of a breakaway civilization. All the different variants, all the different types. We're going to be talking about a key piece of psychological warfare that will be a test case example, a study, a veritable study in PsyOps and propaganda in the infamous case of Alternative 3. And if you don't know what Alternative 3 is, you will find out. I will link you the actual thing if you want to watch it. It is really stupid. It's boring. We're not going to be watching it. I don't actually know if it's owned by the BBC as copyrighted or what. It would be really boring to watch the whole thing anyway. It's really dumb. But we're gonna see some fascinating elements in this. I mean, this is gonna blow your mind, because you're gonna see how propaganda topics seem to pop up pretty consistently, don't they? Like moon missions, climate change, space bases, and Depop all seem to appear together in a lot of these. And nukes, the nuke fear disaster. We'll be talking about the day after because that will fit into this. We're going to also be talking about how this connects to paranoid awareness, the psychological warfare components of inducing paranoia, and what is more frightening than not just your own death, but the end of the world. Utilizing the ideology of a end times cult, end times scenario, the collapse of civilization, blah, blah, blah. Could be any of these ends, right? It doesn't have to just be the end of the world. We're going to look at the ways that has been used in various cults, in various evangelical deceptions, frauds. And then in terms of psychological warfare, how intelligence agencies can also utilize end times gibberish, nonsense, gobbledygook, baloney, tomfoolery all at once. Hey, Jamie, is it the end of the world? Is it the end of the world? Okay, so there you go. Jamie says no, it's not the end of the world. Case closed, appeal to authority. And if anybody would know, Jamie would know. Does anyone dispute that? Of course not. So it's not actually the end of the world. I don't actually know if it's the end of the world, but so the first thing we're going to talk about is I sat and reflected upon examples of this that go beyond what I covered in my lecture that I did 5 years ago, which is still on my channel. You can pull it up. It's the Occult Hollywood Predictive Programming. I'm sure the mods can find it. I think I shared it on my community feed. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, it comes up pretty easily. I shared it on my Telegram and all that. And that's all it got quite a few views between multiple channels, about 100,000 views. And it was a really fun presentation. You can tell I was really nervous. I had my lion's mane of Fabio hair at the time. Now I just have Fabio's oily skin. Not when I'm flexing at all times. My skin just oils consistently when I get up from a chair. It's like I use Jerry curl. It is like I am a profusely sweating obese person. I just leave oils everywhere. Because Jamie said she likes it when there's an oily man in the yard chopping wood and stuff. She said, could you be more oily? And I said, I am as petrol as I can be, baby. And then what I realized was I needed that chalk.com. Chalk.com turned me into an oily Fabio without the hair. Just literally on the basis of jawline alone. And I would step into the octagon with Fabio at any point, in any time, in any nation, and let that message get back to Fabio. You want to talk all that smack? Meet me in the octagon. And when we get in that octagon, we're gonna see I'm gonna have him in a damn chokehold, and it's gonna look like the cover of a romance novel. People are gonna be like, that is a homoerotic romance novel, the way he's got that dude in a chokehold. How did he defeat Fabio so easily in the octagon, aka also known as the octagon? And it's because of chalk.com. That's how. Anyway, let's get into some examples of the notion of a breakaway. So where does this come from? What are you talking about, breakaway civilization, dude? What? Give me a break. Break me off a piece of that civilization. No, we're not talking about nasty Kit Kat bars. We're talking about the idea that an elite group has the right, the dignity, the duty, the privilege to not just separate, but to get rid of everyone else. And let's think back to the ancient world. Well, in a sense, really the whole idea of the caste system, or the caste of the elites, of the god race of the blue bloods, right? That have the duty because they might have higher intelligence, they might have more wealth, they might have more state power. It's their duty to benevolently help the rest of us by getting rid of the rest of us, or keeping the rest of us in balance with Mama Earth, Mama Gaia, right? We don't want the back of Gaia to get too, right? She's going to turn into Quasimodo, right? Because she's going to have too many people on this side of her back, and then this side is going to be hunchback. And we don't want Mama Earth turning into a hunchback Quasimodo, or having too many people on the back of the giant turtle. The turtle will flip over. The whole world, like an island. Our Earth is an island floating, and if we get too many people on one side, like that one senator said, the island is going to tip over. The islands will tip over. Too many people. Remember that? We don't want that. So in ancient attitudes of the elite, we already see, we've covered it many times, most of the imperial caste of the elite, Pharaoh and his court, or Plato and the philosopher kings, modeled actually on the pharaonic system, according to the Timaeus, includes this attitude of the elite are a set apart group that ought to control the rest, and for the good of Mama Earth, Cull them like a herd. There you go. Culling the herd. So this devious attitude, which is really just a attitude of fallen man in the city of man, the way St. Augustine correctly puts it. The attitude of the city of man is to allow man to basically be God and determine life and death at all costs for everyone, based on science, right? And if you think about it, at the time of Plato, at the time of the Republic, the idea that Gaia had too many people on her back, well, that was the science of the time. I mean, Plato's the science philosopher king, right? I mean, if you were to ask Plato, is your philosophy mysticism or is it science? He would be like, it's mathematical, mystical science, bro. I'm just taking math and applying it to the world and saying that there's too many number of people. Get the numbers down. Well, we got to get those numbers down in my formula. If we just interject into this equation here, the right numbers, we get those numbers down. Science. Supposedly, so-called. Scientism, the science of Plato. So this attitude passes into, eventually, the Renaissance, some of the Renaissance nations. I think Italy at a certain point when they were the Italian Republic, the Renaissance, I believe that there was this attitude that didn't directly relate to, I read a book on this a long time ago, didn't directly relate to Depop, but the attitude behind the chattel human slavery operations were based in the Greek eugenic mindset. That comes out of Greece, right? So interestingly, even though they weren't like, let's kill everybody for the earth, it was more of a structuring the people groups, and the lower people on the totem pole will be like the working class, right? And again, that's the Platonic caste structure, right? Remember, Plato's system was a 3-tiered system. You had philosopher king or philosopher elite at the top. The guardian class is the class of the, soldiers. So they're not at the level of philosopher king. And this is because Plato thought this corresponded to the 3 levels of what a man has. Mind is the highest faculty. Heart is the faculty that corresponds to courage, right? So it's not as high as the mind, but it's a good thing. And that corresponds to the guardian class, the warrior class, right? They need bravery, courage, and those are virtues of the heart. So that corresponds to the guardian class. And then the working class corresponds to the body. So you can see that's Plato thought that man himself had a 3-tiered triadic structure that was the corollary, the mystical microcosm of the social order. So the social order should be conducted like the body of a man. A city is just a big dude, a big ass dude. Perhaps you are the testicles of the city. Perhaps you have big testicles in this city, and you live in testicle tenement of dude city. Perhaps you're the brains. Perhaps you got pens and pocket protectors and computers, and you're the brains of this city. If you watch Metropolis, you will notice that that's kind of the attitude of Metropolis. The city is a man, and the workers need to be in concord with the brains, the elites of the city. And they meet in the heart, right? That's the mystical allegory of Metropolis. Welcome, everybody. We got almost 500 tonight. It's a beautiful, balmy, cool Sunday night. And we're talking about Fabio. We're talking about oily bodies, namely my own buff body and muscles. And we're talking about fighting Fabio in the octagon. And we're talking about breakaway civilizations. Clearly the most important things in the history of mankind. Those 3 or 4 things right there. So Plato's city becomes this model of how the ideal quantified society should exist, how it ought to be. This is the most rational ideal city. Please structure your cities in such wise fashion. Now, this strategy of the elite then as a group apart, as a caste apart, as the head of the society, right? It's like the head will detach and fly off, and then the bodies will fall over and collapse and disintegrate. Zardoz, right? This is what we get in Zardoz. By the way, I forgot to add Zardoz to today's list. That is exactly one of the preeminent examples of the very thing that we're talking about tonight. And really, as we all know, as we guys know, you're all a bunch of wee guys. Everyone in the audience is only this tall. You're all the wee people. What if the audience was all literally people this tall? The wee audience. In this situation, the breakaway civilization of the city of man, the kingdom of man, the fallen world, exemplified in Plato's Republic, right? A rational republic. That's one example of the breakaway civilization. We also have the biblical version, the breakaway civilization. Everyone can probably figure out the most obvious example of this, the story of Noah. And I'm sure everyone in this audience knows the story of Noah. I'm not going to rehearse it, but as we all know in Orthodox Church, right, the Ark of Noah is symbolic of the church. The church is the ark. Outside that church, you will be drowned. You have to enter into the ark. So in Noah's situation, there is one household left. All right, the church of that time was really just this household. Everyone else had become totally wicked. Society was just doing just nasty stuff, just heathen, just nasty. Can't even talk about it. And so the judgment is coming. And so the story of Noah is a breakaway civilization story for the righteous, not this ideal technocratic republic that we're going to build that's going to be the reinstantiation of Atlantis or of Pharaoh's Egypt or whatever Plato intended. It's going to be a theocracy under God. And the theocracy under God is totally different morals, totally different paradigm, totally different worldview than the city of man, right? Which is predicated on man being his own God. Everything is in the image of man. Reason, the rational republic, Enlightenment rationalism, Voltaire, and the philosophes, and all these characters. These are just re-envisioning, reinstantiation. That's not even a word. Another instantiation. Is that word? Is another a word? Another instantiation of this rational republic, city of man. But it's interesting that both scenarios, the biblical perspective, the worldly perspective, they both have their cataclysm, destruction, remnant, breakaway group theologies and elements. And of course, as we move through Scripture, we all know, I think, if you've watched my talks and if you've read the Bible a lot, and if you've listened to, Seraphim Hamilton or James Jordan, one of the themes that comes up is the prominent theme of diaspora, remnant, return. And so really every biblical cycle of the diaspora, cataclysm, or the cataclysm, diaspora, and then return of the remnant is another version of this breakaway civilization or salvation of a remnant group. And of course, every cult says, we're the true remnant, right? That's not what we're talking about tonight. Just talking about, although the remnant idea is used by cults for sure. Absolutely. In fact, Jamie and I will be talking about this crazy cult woman out of Nashville that I'd never heard of. And some of our friends from church said, hey, you got to watch this documentary about this crazy Nashville cult woman. And I never heard of this. Right? I live around the area of Nashville. I thought surely I would have heard of this. A mega church cult from Nashville. I never heard of this. And it's a pretty fascinating story. I think it's a Showtime documentary, 3 or 4 installments. Pretty recent, pretty popular. So Jamie and I will be covering that in the next couple of days, as well as other evangelical megachurch prosperity gospel stuff. So I think I did one video on that topic maybe 5 years ago. So I haven't really dug into, there's not really a need to dig into it. I mean, it's obviously a bunch of con men, but we will be talking about in the next couple of days the evangelical megachurch prosperity gospel scam, right? How these people are a bunch of obvious phony balonies. So it's kind of hard to believe that anyone falls for that stuff, but they do. So we're going to be covering some of that in the next couple of days, but that will involve, right, at least in the case of that crazy Nashville boomer cult woman who started as a weight loss thing. It's like Jenny Craig, which is totally a boomer thing. It's like Jenny Craig, the Christian Jenny Craig thing that turns into its own anti-Trinitarian cult, and they're called the Remnant. This is wild stuff, dude. So that's going to be fun to get into. I was watching videos of her stuff on YouTube, and I was like, wow. And the weird part is that her hair gets bigger and bigger. Like, the bigger her ministry gets, the bigger her hair gets. I'm not joking. Like Tammy Faye. And also, there's a movie about Tammy Faye Baker out. I don't really care about that movie, but there's weird timing here. Oh, this documentary comes out about this other cult woman. And then who's the woman at TBN with her gigantic pink hair? It looks like cotton. It literally looks like a big ass wad of cotton candy, which is the nastiest thing ever. And I'm not joking. It's like the more these people go crazy, they put it into their hair. I don't know how. How do you get your hair that big? And why does your insanity manifest as your hair? Well, speaking of hair, Cotel actually did an interesting stream the other day about the biblical symbolism of hair. And I was just doing Ezekiel, which, by the way, I haven't forgotten about. I just forgot about it. I forgot about it, but I haven't forgot about it because I remembered it. So we will be doing the rest of Ezekiel early on, the Trinity early on, right? But remember how in the Ezekiel talk, hair came up and we made the connection to Samson. And it was making sense how I was, not understanding what the representation. For many years, I didn't get the representation of hair in Scripture. And then Ezekiel and other texts clear it up, right? And yes, everybody knows about Samson. So I'm not just saying, I was aware of the story of Samson, obviously. But hair has a pretty interesting significance throughout Scripture, where we see the women shorn, right? In the law, Mosaic law, we see Samson's power being connected to his hair. We see Ezekiel attaching mystical significance to the hair in the early text of Ezekiel. So we'll get into that, but suffice to say that the biblical process of being in the land, rejecting the law, cataclysm comes, and then diaspora, exodus, right? Wandering, remnant return. That's a version of Noah's Ark story, right? And Noah's Ark story, right, is also, as we said, Christological, where he emerges from the ark after the destruction. The waters of baptism wash away the evil and filth. The waters of baptism wash away Pharaoh and his soldiers. We see this cycle, right? Which was the weird part of the 5th Pirates of the Caribbeans, right? It's like a gigantic mosaic wash away. That part was really weird. If you remember that one, which Jamie and I just happened to watch the rest of the Pirates of the Caribbean series because we'd never seen them, but they had all these references to like the 10 Commandments and stuff at the end. That was bizarre. Anyway, so let's get into some more examples of this beyond what we see then with the ancient world in terms of Plato and the caste system and the elites. The pharaoh is better than everyone. Oh, he's God, and everyone else is a stinky bum, a stinky hobo. Pretty much all of you out there in the audience. Shout out to my homeboy hobos out in the audience with that paper bag and that itchy butt. All of those hobos out there. Not a shout out to my boys in the warming themselves around that burning trash can, because we aren't part of the pharaonic elite. We're not the sons of Ra. You and I, my friends, are the lowly wee hobos gathered around the burning can, sucking out of a soup can the last vestiges of that little piece of chicken that they put in the Campbell's chicken soup. That's what we are. Hobo life, baby. So what about the elite then? What is their attitude? Well, their attitude is, for us and for our crew, our in-group preference of the elite, everything. For the slaves, no thing. And so this attitude then creates the secret societies, creates the inner core, the shadow government, the cunning of the, priest class or the banking elite class as we progress through history. And then really we don't get a lot of this in the history of the church, except for the early millennial cults and the early cataclysmic apocalyptic cults. So ever since the beginning of the church, that has existed, right? The apocalyptic end times attitude. And we're not going to go into all the church history on that kind of stuff today, but suffice to say, if you read, Irenaeus in the first few hundred pages, he lists all these Gnostic cults and he lists all these crazy things that they believed and blah, 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 blah. It's really wild, but you can see the parallels to today's evangelical premillennial world. And that will play big into social engineering, manipulation, and scams, geopolitical engineering, as, for example, evangelical groups will promote the idea that Russia is Gog and Magog. I believe John Hagee promotes this ridiculous, stupid idea. And that is obvious propaganda to make Russia a bad guy, and that any Western Protestant millennial churches are the good guys being persecuted by evil Putin, evil Russia, Gog, Magog. This is all just gibberish nonsense, right? Totally stupid stuff. But many writers, many authors, many evangelical fiction pieces, Tim LaHaye, all this nonsense, all of the John Hagee nonsense. Blood moons, the blood moons of Israel. In my book, Defense of Israel, I will show you Jesus is not the Messiah. I will follow the blood moons of Israel into some made-up bunch of nonsense and con the rest of you dummies out of millions of dollars. Watch me play the saxophone as I chew on sandwiches at the same time. Right? John Hagee stuff. That's exactly what we're talking about. John Hagee stuff. And John Hagee stuff isn't just some kind of make money thing. It's a geopolitical propaganda tool, which a lot of people don't know that. But yes, pretty obvious. And this level of the propaganda, of course, was used very heavily in the Cold War. Reagan was the master of this, Cold War moral majority co-opting the evangelical end times gibberish. If you remember, we just read the Satanist essay, remember, a couple weeks ago? And there was a whole section in the Satanist essay where it says, ha ha ha, through Kissinger and his machinations, the elite were able to dupe and co-opt these ridiculous evangelical gibberish cults and turn them to the use of the Pentagon and ultimately to the use of the Satanists, because the idea of all that, yes, doctrinal warfare, is to bring in a state of agitation and paranoia. And if you listen to the stream that Jamie and I did on Rockfin last night or the night before, whenever it was, a couple nights ago, we did every conspiracy ever. And what was that about? That was about paranoid awareness, paranoia. And how paranoia and agitation, anxiety, are useful tools in the psychological warfare officer's belt, in his arsenal. The tools of paranoia, agitation, getting you anxious, agitating you. Now, agitation isn't just there to get you to buy something, get you to be scared. Agitation has the effect of getting you to accept things you normally wouldn't accept, and under the guise of emergencies. I wonder where have we seen this recently? Perhaps there's an emergency. We got to do whatever we want, right? We got to touch your butt and do anything we want because it's an emergency. Literally, it's an emergency. And how dare you go against the emergency, right? And so end time stuff isn't just something that was used, by the way, in recent times with, the Cold War and the evangelical gibberish. End time stuff existed in the Middle Ages. In fact, at the year 1000, there was a famous, in the Roman Catholic Latin West, there was actually a big kerfluffle because people thought that was going to be the end of the world. Not everybody, but a lot of people thought the year 1000, for whatever reason, was going to be the end of the world. And in many of the medieval cults, we know they turned to apocalyptic end times cults. We saw this in our lectures through medieval cults and heresies. We saw this in groups like the Cathari. We see it in late medieval cults like the Munster Rebellion. Right? Munster tried to set up this breakaway utopia cult that was communistic, mystical, proto-Protestant, and they thought it was the end of the world. And in many cults let's put it this way, many heretical groups, many heterodox groups in the history of the church who break away, or schismatic groups, many of them have found it a convenient justification to simply say it is the end times. Well, I can't make sense of my ecclesiology. The Sedevacantists are the masters of this. My ecclesiology makes no sense. There isn't even any bishops left. My ecclesiology says at Vatican I that it's impossible to not have a bishop of Rome until the end of the world. But I don't have any answers, so I'm going to appeal to mystical visions of Our Lady of, this or that. And there is no bishop of Rome. There might not even be any bishops. It's just the end times, bro. Right? It's the cope card for the cults. It's just the end times, bro. Now, it could be the end times. But every cult, yes, I forgot, the Free Spirit, the Fraticelli, what's that other? There's another name for that group at that time. We covered it in the medieval heresies. The followers of Joachim of Fior, basically, right? They were also an apocalyptic cult. They had this arbitrary classification of history that we were entering the age of the Holy Spirit. We had the age of the Father. We had the age of the Son. And now it's the age of the Holy Spirit. Just totally arbitrary nonsense. There's not an age of the Father and an age of the Son. Although, to be very precise, the Eastern Fathers do speak of the eschaton being, in a sense, the age of the Holy Spirit, because this age manifested the Son, that's true, and the Son points us to the Father. But it's not an arbitrary dividing up of history into, this is the end times of the spiritual revival, and we don't need an institutional church anymore because we're the free spirit. And that's all used by the communists, right? The communists borrowed from Munster, they borrowed from Joachim of Fior and the Free Spirit to help erect their Jacobin utopia that was coming. Thus, we get to the fact that all of the utopian movements, utopian cults, utopian theories of the state, themselves become a secret society grounded, based, not based in the based sense, based in the based sense, Breakaway Civilization. Join us, brother. We are the seed of the new age to come. Indeed, the New Age movement itself is a utopian breakaway civilization type of movement, isn't it? Of course it is. Technocracy and transhumanism are themselves also breakaway elite civilization movements. And if you've seen a lot of these, goofy New Agers over the years, this is a recurring myth, right? We're the sons of the starseed, children workers of the light. And in the future, when we emerge from our cocoon pods, we're all going to live in a perfect world where everything will be based on gummy bears and fruit, and it'll be fun, and we'll jump around on giant inflatable castles for the next million years, right? It's just the stupid shit that they come up with. Literally, people will say stuff that level, right? The starseed, the Pleiadians. Well, that's just a variation on this breakaway civilization remnant, the chosen elect, chosen few. And thus, yes, as you can imagine, I'm going to bring up the alien cults. The alien UFO myths oftentimes utilize these techniques, tactics. Alien cults, right? A lot of them include the social engineering element of the apocalypse, the imminent end, the imminent end of this civilization, the world, the imminent coming of the Hale-Bopp comet, which signals the, time to give up our bodies, right? Heaven's Gate nonsense. Om Shinrikyo, another end times cult. I don't know if they had an alien mythology, but I wouldn't be surprised. Raelians, end times alien cult. Scientology. And we should be clear here that, in a sense, we as Orthodox, we also believe in an end times utopia, don't we? Yeah. In a sense, we do. But from our vantage point, it is the church that is the chosen. It is the church that is the New Jerusalem, the new heavenly Jerusalem that is now. It's already come into history, into time and space. It began at the first coming of Christ and essentially at Pentecost. And so really the church is another version of this breakaway civilization and salvation, utopia, eschaton message. Now, we believe we have the true version of this, obviously. And we are, more than prepared to debate, dispute, refute any of the opposing claimants about this. But I'm speaking very generally here, right? I mean, in other words, I don't think anybody thinks that the Orthodox Church is an end times cult where you run off to some, wooded, secluded area in a compound with a bunch of weirdos, right? That's a Fed-run cult. Don't do that, right? Let's see. I wanted to make sure I covered the examples of this from cults. Yes. Now, stepping outside of cults, what about white papers and government documents? Well, we'll get to that. There's a whole list of those that I'm going to go through, such as Report from Iron Mountain. Now, wait a minute, that's fiction. Oh, but wait a minute, it's not, because Miles Copeland says in his biography that it's actually based on real things. And there's things like the Gaither Report, which closely parallel the types of end of the world scenarios that we read about in the Report from Iron Mountain. We know about in the Patriot mythology of 80s Patriot radio and all this stuff that comes out of the Cold War, right? There was, recurring stories of the UN's going to invade. We're taking the UN's here. They've landed. They're here. And this was all baloney, but it was being propagated back in the 80s and in the 90s in the early nascent conspiracy patriot circles. And that involved a lot of con men, a lot of grifters, a lot of phonies, Bo Grits, these kinds of people. If you remember this famous fraud character who duped a lot of people in the patriotard movement. And there was like an older version of the Q nonsense in the 2000s. I forget that woman's name. I did a whole show on Rockfin of another older version of Q crap. Well, that was all baloney. That was all psychological warfare, grifters, manipulation, spooks, and kooks, right? Remember, a large portion of the domain of what we're talking about today, right? The alternative, not everything, but a large portion are spooks, kooks, and crooks. that makes up a large portion of who's out there in this kind of stuff, right? And sometimes they're all the above. Sometimes they're all three. But for our intents and purposes, we want to look at what we can demonstrate and prove from white papers, from the available evidence, the public evidence. Now, some of the white papers and documents that would relate to this, which we'll go into more detail in part 2. We're going to do the fiction next. But in part 2, we'll get into the details. We'll get into the white papers relevant to this. The recent Pentagon Black Ops video, I'm sure you guys have heard of this, where we have references to Escape from New York. That was a Special Forces video. Did you guys see that? Yeah, we'll cover that in part 2. We'll talk about some of the news relating to the underground bases of the billionaires, Peter Thiel's, for example. Now, everybody's talked about this episode of Jesse Ventura with you know who about you know what. It's gone around. But there was another episode at the time, because I used to watch Conspiracy Theory when it was out on True TV, and there was a the first season they did like really actual, conspiracy stuff. And then in season 2 and 3 or whatever, it turned into chupacabras and this nonsense, right? UFOs, blah, 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 Bigfoot level stuff, right? It went total TARD, right? Went full TARD. But season 1 actually had real stuff. And one of the episodes of season 1, I'm pretty sure, and if it wasn't, no, I'm pretty sure it was, because I remember it was like Jesse Ventura going and interviewing a billionaire that had built his big underground bond fortress in the Ozarks. I remember this episode. I've never been able to find it again. Maybe somebody can find it, but I mean, unless I'm misremembering it, I was just watching it at the same time as Conspiracy Theory, but I remember he's like, "So you're building an underground fortress? Why? Why would you be doing this?" Right? And it's like, I don't believe America has much longer. I believe we're going to see a total collapse. I believe we're going to see an economic collapse. I'm going to believe we're going to see... So you're saying the elite are going to collapse everything? Well, yes, I think we're going to see a total, probably a bio-warfare release. We're going to see this. We're going to see that. We're going to see the stores are going to, shelves are going to be empty. So you're saying they're going to kill everybody? Right? Every time I do Jesse Ventura, it destroys my my voice. I don't know how he does it. How does he talk like that? Does anybody else remember that episode? I'm pretty sure I saw that, right? Not the Ozarks, the TV show. It was an episode of Conspiracy Theory where he interviews some billionaire building a giant... It was like... And the dude had built like a castle. It was like a rebuilt castle, but it had an underground fortress. It was crazy. Yeah, somebody else remembers that. So you're saying you're building a castle? Well, yes, it's a giant castle. So you're saying it's a castle? I don't know. I love doing the Jesse Ventura because, I don't know, he's just, he's a character. And that Labo one, that's funny too. He's like, so you're going to land and fly away. And she's like, they're going to kill everybody. So you're not even staying. You're flying away. All right. What are the... Oh, let's see. I listed some other documents. I wanted to mention a few documents. we're going to talk about, don't forget, so first global revolution, Club of Rome report is apocalyptic. Yes, do you remember that? And I'm sure everybody remembers what the excuse that they say they're going to invent. They actually say it's an excuse invented in the document. We're going to talk about the Dr. Eric Pianka and that kind of stuff, right? So a lot of the stuff that won't fit for the soft hearts upon this platform, we're going to be talking about in the part 2. Basically, you get what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying. We'll be talking about that. I'm going to go deeper into a lot of stuff that you probably heard Lord Voldemort talking about Saturday, right? Peter Thiel's got a underground base on the folks. It's unbelievable. All right. But what about the fiction? As you guys know, the fiction always tells us something that the fact doesn't. And in fact, a lot of times, the fiction is a lot more fact than the fact. And that's a fact, Jack. The fiction tells us more than what's going on than the BS fiction of the news. Right, exactly. And if you didn't see the breakdowns that we did of the various James Bond stories, there's no better example than Ian Fleming and James Bond. First global revolution and limits to growth. Yeah, remember, so you start to notice a lot of these white papers, a lot of the continuity of government ideas, reports, lockstep, etc. These are about the notion of coming cataclysm. Remember the 2008 Ministry of Defense report reported in The Guardian, flash mobs, chips, social unrest. Flash mob, chips, social unrest. 2007-8 white paper, British Ministry of Defense. Now the new reports are all about transhumanism, which we'll be covering, by the way. The newly declassified Ministry of Defense report on human augmentation. We'll be covering this whole document. And this upcoming week, not in part 2 of this. And this upcoming week, we'll be covering this, which you can imagine what this is. I'm sure everybody has seen this one. It's going around. Also now public. Those are going to be some choice, juicy morsels to bite into. Just like Fabio's oily muscles. Choice, juicy muscles to bite into when we cook him in the octagon. I will eat your, right, to quote Lord Voldemort. All right, so I just kind of sat back and reminisced, and I listed all the films and the plots that I could remember, and I'm going to ask you guys, and by the way, if you're watching this later, feel free to put in the chat below, what are some of the instances and examples that I've missed? Because I thought and tried as best I could, but I'm sure I've missed some, right? So I've gone through the different instances where I could remember fiction stories that relate to prepping us for the coming end, the coming catastrophe. Now, we're not going to cover every zombie movie, right? Because those are all kind of like, we're not going to cover every apocalypse movie, but specifically ones that have the theme of the Breakaway Civilization, the remnant, and how this might be a preparation for a coming catastrophic, cataclysmic event, an ELE. Are you familiar with an ELE? Extinction level event. Right? Now, it's my thesis that there is not actually a real ELE on the way. I would agree with Lord Voldemort that that is a lie that they probably tell to different people that they invite to various elite meetings. Right? So, yeah, probably William Shatner got invited to meetings of elite scientists and elite generals who tell them of an ELE. There's a big old asteroid on its way, and if we don't get Ben Affleck and old Liv Tyler and Ving Rhames and Steve Buscemi and I just went blank. Who's the star of Armageddon? If we don't get Steven Tyler singing songs about America right now, we're not going to make it. I have The Stand. So I have They Live, right? So we're going to go through this list and we're going to kind of recount the plots and notice the patterns that we see and maybe insights and hints that we get from the various movies. Yes, I'm going to talk about William Shatner, but because I just watched the whole launch, I watched the whole thing. It was so stupid. It was so dumb. And then Jamie and I got to thinking about this. Why are they doing this? Well, my first thought was Bezos probably has bought airtime, or he probably has like interest in the various news programs. So it's like a big ad for Amazon and Bezos and whatever his freaking space program is, right? So that's one level of it. And then I got to think, okay, but why are billionaires now the face of the space program? My guess, this is my theory, I don't have any proof of this. My theory is that they're going to bring in the alien nonsense as a psychological warfare operation. It will be one of the great examples of the Breakaway Civilization, using the alien myth. I think the billionaires are in on this PsyOP scam, and that as their private space companies and all the nonsense that they're going to claim, they're going to eventually say that our private space companies have found the life on the other planets. That's what I think. They're going to be the bridge for giving this BS to everybody, and then it'll come down filtered to us through, the whole top-down structure. And remember, if that sounds nutty, in the World Economic Forum's 8 things to expect in the next 10 to 20 years video, everybody overlooks this one. What was in there? Alien life. I'm telling you, it's there. Yeah, it's in the Klaus video. Right? It's not just you will have nothing, own nothing, you'll be happy. It's also there will be alien life in the next 20 years, right? Now, again, what do we think? It's baloney, dude. Not aliens. It's PsyOps. And for that, I would direct you, of course, to the Collins Brothers' excellent book, Invoking the Beyond, which actually has one chapter in that. It's a 1,000-page book. One chapter is the alien deception, and it's like 300-400 pages. So yeah, that was my theory was, because I kept thinking, why are they doing this? I was like, are they just gonna, is Elon and all these people, they're just gonna put people on a Disney level mission to Mars ride and fake them into thinking that they went to Mars? Is it like an elaborate, like billionaires just sitting around like, dude, I bet I can make a Disney level mission to Mars that is so realistic that we can dupe anyone that sits in the thing and they're gonna think they went to Mars. And then Elon's like, nah, dude, I can do it better, right? So I was thinking, is it something like that? And I was like, no. It's going to fit into the overall narrative. And so the push, all this SpaceX and Virgin Richard Branson flying around, and all of this is, I think, to get ready for what's coming next, which is the alien deception. It's going to be the alien deception. I don't know when. Could be 10 years, 20 years before they roll that nonsense out, but they're going to roll that out. They haven't put all of this time and money and effort into this alien it's so stupid too. All this alien stuff is so dumb. They haven't put all of this money and time and effort into this for no reason. They're going to roll this alien crap out. I guarantee you. I don't know when, but they will. It's been telegraphed, right? Because look, everything that we're looking at now, by the way, if you want to leave a super chat, feel free. I'll be getting to the super chats here in a minute. All this alien crap, like, it's just as much in the predictive programming as the Breakaway Civilization stuff, the Project Noah stuff. And remember, one of the ways that they want to go after everybody in this sense is they don't like the manses. They don't like the mans. I'm talking about me and you, the men's, the manses, us men's. We are not what they like. They don't like Fabio. They don't like me equal to Fabio. They don't like jawlines, of which mine is greater than or equal to Fabio. They don't like that. They don't like Chalk.com, right? Why don't they like Chalk.com? Because Chalk.com is engineered to boost T. Shout out to our show sponsors right there. The Tomcat baby. Tomcat has long jack, and you can guess what that does for your jack, and that's a fact, Jack. That long jack is a T boosting excellent supplement. All of their material is totally organic. That is harvested from the rainforest, by the way. And the long jack actually is shown again to boost T. The promo code has changed, by the way. So they are actually running out of a lot of these products. So it's kind of like time sensitive. So if you do want to get in on this, there's the promo code right there, J40, 40% off anything right now. That's crazy. That's insane deals, dude. And remember, they're anti-soy. They're anti-big soy. Big soy is turning us into soy in the green. Chalk.com is there to fight that. Again, the daily is great. If look, a lot of the ladies don't want that long jack. A lot of ladies they're not interested in being the testicles of the city, like Plato said. They want to be, they want to be the doilies of the city. That's what the ladies are. And the ladies of the city need the daily or the Irish moss. And Irish moss got that freaking leprechaun juice in it, if you know what I mean. They got distilled, solidified leprechaun juice in that Irish moss. That's going to have you hopping around with a literal pot of gold, if you know what I mean. And I don't even know what I mean, but you know what I mean. Chalk.com boost T, as we said, that's proven. Literally proven. Logically, by necessity, proven, by the way. And they got banned from Instagram for being based. So, again, they're good dudes. If they got removed, they got zucked for being based. They're a Patriot Pro Red Pill company. And we love Chalk.com, and they love us. It's a bromance, though. Same platonic, friendly degree of frenemy relationship that we have with Fabio, pretty much. But again, shout out to our show sponsor, Chalk.com. Definitely get over there. Get access to basically anything over there in terms of 40% off right now. Now, let's get into some of the storylines that are recurring patterns and themes in fiction and literature. Now, we mentioned a couple with them old school boys, right? Socrates, right? Like your boy Bill S. Preston says. Socrates, Plato, them old boys talked about this stuff. Noah, your old buddy Noah, he talked about this stuff. But when we come up into the movies, we see this as well. And again, you guys help me out. You tell me what's missing from this list. Let's get into it. So I'm just going to go down the list, and I listed them randomly because I didn't put them in chronological order. So all the Spurgatrons out there in Spurgatory, you're just going to have to deal with your puberty, Spurgity, bad attitude, and deal with the fact that this is not in chronological order. Okay. Elysium with Matt Dadbod. Remember Elysium? Elysium was not the greatest movie. But it had this weird element of truth where the elite have their off-grid, off-world civilization. In this story, it's a big floating donut Cheerio thing run by Clarice. Clarice, let me onto your space donut or I'll eat you. No, we don't want to go to Clarice's space donut. And neither does Matt Dadbod, except he wants to get up there because he needs access to that cancer recliner. They got a fancy ass cancer recliner up there on Jodie Foster's Space Donut, and they're just keeping that from the Mexican people. So Matt Damon, as the hero to all of the beloved Mexican people, invades the space donut and he doesn't even save anybody except like his mom. Right? It's like he saves his mom in that cancer recliner. Yeah, I mean Elysium. So Elysium being then the fields of the gods, right? The hallowed garden of the gods. In the film, it's the off-world colony of the elite, which I don't personally believe that the elite are going to have fancy space stations where they live when they kill everybody. I don't think that. The underground base scenario, that's plausible. That's at least possible. But the Moonraker scenario, which we'll get to in a minute, I just don't think that's the way. Underground bases, I believe, that's real. Floating space cities, moon bases, no. That's a bunch of baloney, dude. It's a bunch of baloney. So, let's go through this. So, Elysium, a couple of interesting elements. Thumbs down because of Matt Dadbot, just because of him. Everybody's forgotten this one. I've mentioned it for years. And everybody hates this movie. And it was one of the first movies I started talking about when I was doing movie analyses for the first time back a long time ago. Everybody's like, that movie's stupid. I'm not interested in the artistic merits and quality of this movie. It just has an interesting theme related to this. Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. The whole plot is Project Noah. We're going to call it Project Noah because that's what it's called in Moonraker, but it probably has some other name in the movie. Been many years since I've seen it, but I remember it well. I've seen it many times. You got your Jude Law. You got your Giovanni Ribisi. You got your Angelina Jolie. You got all that. And there were some interesting elements in that were some predictive programming, insights there, right? So if you remember, the Breakaway Civilization was started by this SS dude, and his name is called Totenkopf, Death's Head, which is referencing, like the Death Head, SS, elite, eugenics attitude, right? I think that's intentional there. I think they knew about that in that movie. And again, a lot of people don't like that movie. It's visually interesting, even if you think it's really stupid. It actually is visually interesting, and the whole plot, of course, spoiler alert, when they destroy the underground base of Totenkopf, who we find out is actually dead. Totenkopf actually represents, and it's a Gnostic Luciferian thing because he represents God. And in the movie, it's an attempt to reset civilization through the powers of man. It's literally, there's references to Moses, right? And the Ten Commandments, all of that. So it's intentionally invoking the religious mythology and stories. I'm not saying mythology in the sense that the Bible's a myth. You know what I mean? The archetypal stories, right? And at the end, we find out that it's a space capsule that's a space Noah's Ark. And he's got all the animals in there, and they're going to kill the planet. And then after a time of floating in the space ark, they'll have a new Adam and Eve. So, Sky Captain definitely has this theme, definitely has this plot. In fact, it's one of the preeminent examples of this plot. Not the only one, but specifically the Project Noah plot. Now, the other one, Moonraker. I'm not going to rehearse Moonraker. We just covered it. Everybody knows probably what the plot of Moonraker is. Hugo Drax. Of course, in the novel, it's different. He just wants revenge, and it's the V2 rocket program. The movie takes it to the next level, dude, and they're like, let's put, as Jamie said, Peter Dinklage on a space station, and he is a lusty man. He wants to mate with the best of the blondies out there and restart the human race. And there's even, this line where he's standing there on his podium and he's like, witness now the beginning of the new civilization. From now on, the descendants of Earth will look up to me, their God in heaven, who will give them law and order. I will be the father God to a new race, right? This level of stuff. And what do we know? Your boy, Jeff Stein McEffrey, New York Times. He was doing that very thing, wasn't he? Somebody else too. Was it the Victoria's Secret dude doing that? Yeah. Supposedly. I'm hearing that the Victoria's Secret dude was doing the same thing. He's going to mate with the models. This is Hugo Drax plans, dude. All right, let's see. Moving on. Everybody knows Moonraker. But in the Moonraker, it's actually, he's going to release the pods. And I just remembered that the pods that Hugo Drax is releasing are from his Aztec flower garden. So, No Time to Die, Rami Malek, Dr. No, that's what the whole flower garden thing was. I was watching and I was like, what is this flower garden stuff? Is it Garden of Eden? Which, yes. But then I remembered, oh yeah, Hugo Drax. He has a flower garden at his Aztec fortress base where he's synthesizing the nerve gas that he's going to use, right, as a Bond villain. I'm getting verklempt. I'm crying over here. Hurting because I'm afraid I hurt Fabio's feelings making fun of him. So I'm starting to get choked up. By the way, if you want to support the show via buying the books, the shop is back. The shop was down because, as often happens, the plugins are not compatible with the other plugins. So this is a very annoying thing. Everybody's like, your website doesn't work, dude. I know. As soon as something goes wrong, you can be assured that 50 other people are letting me know that something is wrong. So, thank you. But, anyway. Thank you. I'm so thirsty. I'm getting choked up. Are my Fabio comments making you angry? Jamie's over there getting tense. She's tensing up. She's ready to punch something over there. Ooh, she said I'm cuter than Fabio. Look at that. I told you guys. Cuter than or equal to Fabio. Probably cuter than. Probably. Where we at? So, in reference to other Bond films, I did include No Time to Die, because No Time to Die, spoiler alert, Rami Malek wants to kill everybody. And it's, again, a throwback to, actually, it's a throwback to like all of them, right? Because remember, in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, as we just discussed over on the Rockfin, Blofeld wants to reduce England to the Stone Age. Blofeld wants to do a great reset to the West. Right? Soy face, right? Exactly. And if you miss that, you should definitely go watch that. I highly recommend that you go watch the 007s that we did over on The Rock. And if you're not over on The Rock, why aren't you over on The Rock? Go do it right now. I don't mean The Rock. I mean The Rock as in Rockfin. There is my channel over on Rockfin. And let's see. Oblivion. Remember Oblivion? We don't exactly know what has happened to the world in Oblivion, except that Tom Cruise is the only survivor. This is an odd choice of the aliens to pick Tom Cruise to be the representative Adam figure to go into the future, but so be it. And right? That's the future right there. And as everybody knows, it turns out it's a big AI triangle that floats around and is cloning Tom Coombs. But is still a breakaway civilization. I don't think we're ever told why it's Tom Coombs, and I don't remember who the chick is. Some redheaded chick. I forget who that is. Like a Julianne Moore looking chick. No, it's the Russian girl in all the spy movies. What's her name? Olga Kurylenko. It's Tom Coombs and Olga Kurylenko, isn't it? Yes, it is. I remember that now. Tom Coombs, Secret Doomer, exactly. And so, but we're never told, right? He just happens to be the dude that's cloned, right? Anyway, so that fits into Breakaway Civilization storyline, and there it's the alien AI, like the alien is a giant AI, right? So we'll count Oblivion there, and they always love to show the scenic American and world destinations destroyed. Number one, of course, as everyone knows. Actually, mainstream articles have been written on how many movies have the Golden Gate Bridge destroyed in there. It's like the number one thing to destroy in the apocalypse. So if the end of the world is coming, don't be anywhere near the Golden Gate Bridge. We already know not to do this, right? Just stay the heck away from that thing to begin with. The Golden Gate Bridge maybe itself is like the vortex of the hell portal to bring in the end times, right? So just stay away from that thing, especially, right? Skittles Francisco. War of the Worlds, not so much the film. Of course, the film and the novel is a classic end of the world apocalypse scenario, the alien apocalypse scenario. But not so much Wells's book, but Orson Welles' usage of it in the famous War of the Worlds broadcast. Remember this? And yes, we know from Hadley Cantrell's book, that was a psychological warfare test. Rockefeller Foundation, other groups were behind this Orson Welles broadcast of H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. And I know, surely you guys know this, right? Do you think that this was not a prank? It was a study. And everybody freaked out and thought that the stupid faking Gralian end times event was real because it was on the radio. And they wanted to see how this affected people, what it would do, blah, blah, blah. And it worked. A lot of people fell for that. So that was a classic psychological warfare study. There's a whole book on it. Read, what is it, Mission to Mars, Hadley Cantrell? Yeah. All right, we got War of the Worlds. We got Orson Welles. Now, the thing that we're going to be talking about here in a minute, this preposterous. Actually, you should just go watch like the middle 15 minutes of it. Okay. Alternative 3, it has to be one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. I mean, it is so dumb. And it shows you how well they've tweaked and made deception and media deception, psychological warfare, how sophisticated it's become. Because you go watch this Alternative 3 thing, and it was like, how did anybody believe this? How was anyone so naive? It's so obviously actors. And it's so B-level production. It's like, how did anybody fall for this? Like, so stupid. Yet, many people at the time believed that Alternative 3 was real. I don't know how, but they did. Again, just like many people believed that Orson Welles' radio broadcast was real. Now, again, that's covered in detail if you read Invoking the Beyond, the excellent Collins Brothers book, which you can get at iUniverse, I think. So we're not going to get into all the alien stuff exactly, but that is discussed there because this was early alien PsyOP preparation. Terminator is relevant here because it is an end time scenario. It's not aliens or anything like that, but it's an end time scenario that is dealing with end times agitation through the advancement of technology, right? Skynet, oh, it's advancing, AI is advancing, the AI is going to kill us all, blah, blah, blah. So we're supposed to be, and yes, that actually is, that's in the Bill Joy piece that we covered, his famous essay from Wired Magazine, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us. I did a whole breakdown of this whole very famous essay, very well known. Lord Voldemort has referenced it for 20 years. I don't remember if I did it in Rockfin or for the members, but you can go find the full breakdown of the full essay by Bill Joy, founder of Sun Microsystems, the one of the early tech billionaire zillionaire elites, who said, by the way, there's a plan for everybody to be got rid of. And I went to one of the meetings where it was discussed, the very things that I'm telling you about, the very thing that Lord Voldemort talked about Saturday. Well, although I think originally the first couple Terminators kind of have a Christianish message. Maybe that was on purpose. Maybe, I don't know. But it's kind of a pro-life, critique of tech. Eventually, however, that series goes further and further into transhumanism and that kind of stuff. So ultimately, yes, it's really just another one of these apocalypse agitation type scenarios. We feel that it's inevitable that everything will collapse, and it thus becomes part of the fulfilling prophecy that since you have, from your earliest days, watched 1,000 instantiations of apocalypse literature, comic books, novels, movies, TV shows, it just must be inevitable that the apocalypse will come. It's coming. It has to. Now, again, in a sense, yeah, there is an end of the world. But that attitude of end of the world can be a very potent tool in psychological warfare to make you give up, black pill, submit, go crazy, live in fear, join some dumb end times cult, right? Classic example of this. What's a classic? Oh, remember I mentioned Reagan earlier? What was a supreme example of Reagan era PsyOP that duped everybody and scared the crap out of everybody? Does anyone know this one? Quiz question for the audience. Who can name the supreme example, famous example, of Reagan era propaganda, Cold War, hint, hint, that scare the crap out of everybody, and you go watch it now and it is hilarious. Like, you're gonna laugh, it's gonna be, it's like, does anyone remember this? I know the chat's a little behind, but yeah, exactly. And everybody knows you're getting close. Everybody, it's Cold War is the hint. Disco, disco was a PsyOP for the end of the world. Maybe it was, right? Reagan does talk about aliens. Yes. Ratsplatigan got it, baby. The Day After. The Day After was a TV movie. I had the DVD. I don't know how I ended up with a DVD of The Day After. The Day After is a apocalypse TV movie that aired to a huge audience in 80, 81, 80. I don't know when it is. Doesn't it have like Steve Gutenberg in it? I don't know why they thought we were supposed to take the apocalypse serious when I've got like the Police Academy dude there. But so Day After is and all the boomers will tell you, that movie scared the crap out of me. I was scared they were going to nuke us for a week. Literally. Of countless. Oh, by the way, you're right. Red Dawn is another great example. Red Dawn is one of the key examples of what's on the list, right? No, it's The Day After. And ask the boomers that watched Day After when it was on, and they'll be like, that movie scared the crap out of us. Well, that's what it was supposed to do, and it's really dumb too, by the way. It's like when they show when the nukes go off, it's just basically a strobe light. It's like bap, 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 and then everybody freezes, and then they just are disintegrated. They don't actually show you getting disintegrated. It shows flashing lights and people freezing. All right, that's the nuke going off there. So that was an end of the world, scare the crap out of everybody scenario that was totally ridiculous. And no, Steve Gutenberg is not going to save you. However, won't you be surprised if any of us in this beloved audience does make it to the underground base? Murphy's Law, Metcalfe's Law, wouldn't you know? I'm just naming random ass laws. I know what Metcalfe's Law is. I'm just being silly. That's not what Metcalfe's Law is. Somebody correct him. I know what Metcalfe's Law is, but wouldn't you know? Right? It will be Steve Gutenberg in the underground base. Wouldn't that be funny? And then really for the next several years, it'd be like Blast from the Past. You'll be like, what's his name? Brendan Fraser in the underground base with Christopher Walken. And you'll just be watching VHSs for the next 2 or 3 years until you can come and emerge from the underground base with Steve Gutenberg. And it's only going to be Police Academy. Because you know that's all Steve Gutenberg watches. Right? What else would he be watching the day after? You don't want to be sitting there in the underground base watching the day after, right? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to be definitely watching all 18 Police Academy movies with Steve Gutenberg in the underground base, only on VHS. Deep Impact, terrible movie, preposterous. Isn't Bill Pullman the president? Actually, I'd rather have Bill Pullman as the president. At least he's like, can we trade him out? Can we trade Bo Jiden for Bill Pullman as president? And then is it more? I get Morgan Freeman. Who's the president? Is Morgan Freeman the president? Maybe we could have a Bill Pullman Morgan Freeman ticket. And they can both be our president in the apocalypse. Dude, the world is so crazy right now that it will probably literally be Bill Pullman and Morgan Freeman who are elected the actual presidents of America when the end of the world comes. That will probably be what happens. By the way, I'm just making jokes. I'm not hating on Steve Gutenberg. It's just cracking me up that they took the police. Maybe he wasn't in Police Academy yet. I don't know. It's just... It'd be like taking Eddie Murphy and putting him in the, Apocalypse movie, and which I'm supposed to take seriously, but it's like you put Eddie. I'm supposed to take that seriously. Like you've got Eddie Murphy in there, dude. Or imagine an apocalypse propaganda movie with Cat Williams, right? It's in the world, bitch. It's in the world. Would I take that seriously? So Deep Impact, the idea, it's an asteroid that's going to get us. Oh, it's a freaking meteor that's going to get us. Is it Bill Paxton? It's not Bill Paxton. Oh man, we're toast, man. We're so going to be toast, man. We're pancake meat, man, when that asteroid hits, man. We're toast, dude. We're all going to be like Wile E. Coyote out here, man. Flatter than all get out, man. Bill Pullman, baby, not Paxton. Although, now that I think about it, I want Bill Paxton as president, not Bill Pullman or Morgan Freeman. Kick them dudes to the curb. I want Bill Paxton 2024, whenever that is. Game over, man. There's a big old rock from space coming, man. It's game over. He would use like a bunch of dumb analogies, right? Yeah, exactly. And yes, I know he's passed away. Shout out Bill Paxton. Shout out to Chet, baby. Chet for president, dude. You know what? Jamie is right. that if the bullies had bullied the nerds more, we wouldn't be ruled by the technocrats. The bullies actually just failed in their job because the chads and the bullies in high school have the duty, the job, the role as the defenders of sanity to make sure that the nerds don't take over. Because as Isaac says, the nerds are going to kill us all. That's true. Who runs the world right now? Who run Bartertown? The nerds run Bartertown. And the nerds are going to kill us all, literally, because they run Silicon Valley and they're going to shut everything down, destroy everybody. So the nerds have taken over the world and they're going to try to push delete on everybody. And that's because Chet didn't do his job. There was a whole generation of Chets somewhere in the 70s and 80s that did not do their duty to bully the nerds into submission. That's my new theory as to how we got to where we are. That's it. There you go. So, Chet for president. Where the hell was Chet in the last... The bully went away in the 80s, didn't he? The bully went away, and now the nerds took over. That's what happened, dude. That's why society has gone to the shitter. That's why. It's gone to the damn shitter. Resident Evil is one, but The Matrix and The Matrix. I don't know how I'd never seen the Animatrix until a couple years ago when I thought, no, actually, did we bring it up? Yes. So when we did the episode of Hollywood Decoded, I finally watched the Animatrix. I had no idea what was in it. I always thought it sounded stupid. But the Animatrix, Chet, there you go. I know people wanted the Chet. How can I not do Chet's laugh, right? So anyway, when we were filming the Hollywood Decoded episode, I was like, all right. I knew we were going to film it, so I'm going to have to watch Animatrix. And we did talk about Animatrix in that breakdown. And in that's the story before the Matrix, right? Where the bots take over and they blot out the sun. They like spray and blot out the sun. And then there's this weird part where they do something with crypto where they like... The bots can create the cryptos faster than anyone else, so they buy up all the cryptos, and then they control the crypto. Basically, the bots own all the bitcoins, right? Funza Arasefu, right? Literally, it's like the Funza Arasefu meme video. And then society collapses, and the Breakaway Civilization is Zion. Yes, remember? Do you believe that I am Lawrence Fishburne? Do you believe in the red pill or the blue pill? Do you believe Neo? Right? Remember that? Remember that movie? You may have heard of The Matrix, perhaps. But it is, again, another Breakaway Civilization, remnant, chosen few. Zion, but it's a Gnostic version of all that. Yes, Resident Evil. Pretty much we're going to include this in it because, as we know, as you follow through that Goofy series, it turns out that the Umbrella Corporation has underground bases everywhere, and they have done the controlled zombie thing on purpose, and it's even explained in the final installment, right? The last Resident Evil. Is it Sean Bean? No, it's not Sean Bean. It's the Captain Friendzone from Game of Thrones, right? Captain Friendzone from Game of Thrones is the bad guy, and he has this whole speech where it's like, we had to do this to start over, and now we're going to start over with the super soldiers, a.k.a. Alice, who's cloned, right? So Mila Jovovich is cloned, and she's like she's going to be the new humanity. That was the plan of Umbrella Corporation, this kind of a thing. So there you go. Yes, that's another in this scenario. And the clones and the humans that survived, right? That's kind of like the Breakaway. Really, it's supposed to be the Umbrella Corporation itself is the Breakaway Civilization, right? Because they have all their underground bases of the clones, and then after the Earth is deleted, they can reset. Raised by Wolves. Dumb series. Was not really that. At first, I was like, okay. And then I'm like, nah, this is getting dumb. But Raised by Wolves, which does have some interesting esoteric elements, I suppose. But it's like, this is just a mishmash of like every science fiction thing. So it's Childhood's End meets Game of Thrones in space with Templar pagan people in space. It's just like, which kind of sounds like it would be an interesting idea. Let's put pagans in space, but I don't know. I just Raised by Wolves, and you know the hero civilization is going to be the atheist civilization. It's just like, come on, dude. Battlestar Galactica, and I'm sure everyone saw the probably because we got a lot of Chad nerds, not nerds, but Chad nerds, right? We are the Breakaway Civilization of the nerds in this audience who fights with the bullies and the football captain of the team. We are currently allied with the bullies and the football captain, Jogs, as we all know, to fight against the nerds. So let everyone in this audience be clear. We are Chad nerds. We're not nerds. Chad nerds. And we're allied with the bullies and the jocks. Because we live in high school. The whole world's just high school. All over again. So remember, guys, stay strong in the fight. Be sure to not let the nerds take over. The nerds are going to kill us all. So we're the Chad nerds. Be clear about that. But if you remember, Battlestar Galactica, which is written by a Mormon, which is like space opera. Hence, you see then the space opera philosophy in Battlestar Galactica. And I'm sure I'm not going to spoil it, but everyone knows the plot of Battlestar Galactica. The Breakaway Civilization is on the run for 3 seasons, however many they did in the new one. And then the big finale was, of course, when everything blows up and they make it to Earth. It's Adam and Eve. So the human race begins when Battlestar Galactica ends. That was the big final reveal that everyone was waiting for. But it was an interesting show. And if you remember, there were some interesting episodes where they had the mind-controlled assassin. Remember that? And they were trying to figure out who it was because wasn't one of them a Cylon that was a mind-controlled assassin Cylon? Remember all that? It had the implantable Neuralink stuff. If you remember that in Battlestar Galactica. I'm talking about the new series. I'm not talking about the old boomer show. X-Files, baby. Can't forget X-Files. Of course. If you've not watched X-Files, you should. I mean, this is a classic of the conspiracy world. Jamie and I have done 2 or 3 X-Files breakdowns. I have seen the entire X-Files canon corpus many times. Many times. I know X-Files very well. And if you don't know, I'll just summarize it briefly. The overall plot is that there was a deal made by the deep state with the aliens who threatened to take over and harvest the planet and clone it and do all sorts of terrible things if they would hand over their children to the aliens. And then the aliens had to take them and make them some special hybrid class, and then everyone else would have to get deleted. So in the X-Files story arc, it is that the aliens want to massively depop. And a chosen few remnant breakaway civilization will be allowed to survive. And that's the deal that the cigarette smoking man made with the aliens. Remember that? And not just him, but him and the syndicate, right? So the syndicate had made that deal. They're basically, for all intents and purposes, the Illuminate confirmed. And that's the plot of X-Files. And by the way, the means by which the alien entities want to depop is also very relevant, if you recall. 2001, 2010. Now, technically speaking, 2001, you're right. It is not a breakaway civilization story. However, as I pointed out in many analyses and as we pointed out in the episode of the TV show, the original story and script that Arthur C. Clarke presented, it actually had Starchild nuke the Earth and start over, just like Hugo Drax was wanting to do. So it's a great reset story. Except that they felt it was way too dark because it's like, okay, so a giant baby is just going to nuke everyone, and now all that exists is a giant baby, and he's the new god. I don't think people are going to like this, right? It's just totally preposterous, right? But it's like the nihilist dream, right? Like the most satanic nihilistic dream ever out of the mind of Arthur C. Clarke, who himself was a Crowleyan creeper. Yes, I can't wait to be a giant space baby and nuke everyone and everything and destroy the universe and start it over. Yeah, exactly. But that's not what they did in the movie, right? So there's no giant space baby nuking Earth in the movie. Now, we covered this. Where did we cover this? Jamie and I did an episode of our Alien series. And we went really deep into 2010. 2010, knowing is on the list, bro. Relax. Relax. Don't do it when you want to go to it. Relax. Alien is on the list, dude. I mean, not Alien. Knowing. It's just I haven't got to. I'm going down the list. I'm going. But, I like to pause and ramble and go crazy. That's what we do here. We do stream of consciousness, baby. That's what we do. It's all improv. There's no notes here. There's no notes except these notes. It's all improv. 2010. This is overlooked because it's a completely, totally weird, boring movie. It is. Totally silly and boring. However, very insightful. Very insightful. Because the Void, I don't know if the Void counts. I mean, that Freddy Krueger pinhead type guy at the end of Void seems like he wants to probably destroy the Earth, but I don't remember. But that's probably what he's up to. That's not really a breakaway civilization, right? In 2010, the monolith is a big zip drive that you upload your consciousness to. And presumably other entities had. And so Bowman has merged with the monolith in his... he's uploaded to the floating zip drive, basically, in space. And he lives in the monolith, and the monolith can, like, extend. It can get really big. And turns out, what was it, Jupiter? Wasn't it Jupiter? Jupiter's a big monolith producer. And it spits out all these monoliths, and they make a deal with the humans that humans can have the rest of space, but they have to leave the new planet alone. And the new planet is a new Earth where everything's starting over. Remember this? It's like totally Luciferian space opera, just total bullshit. But very much what the elite believes, like this kind of stuff. Like panspermia, this kind of stuff. And there's even some weird reference at the end of 2010 where it's like, we are the children of the sun. You know, it's kind of something like, we are the children of the sun. Dark flowers in our hair. If you've heard that Dead Can Dance song. That's I'm not joking. That's what's in 2010. It's weird. Super weird. But the plot is literally about upload your consciousness to the AI, and then the AI will become the god that then determines the new planets where we will start Eden over again. Great reset in space, basically, is what 2010 is, right? It's gibberish, but that's what you could see the Bond villains that run the world actually doing, right? And Arthur C. Clarke was part of the inner core of the Illuminate Confirm. Now, War Games is on my list, not because it's a movie where there's an actual Breakaway Civilization. But if you remember, when Ferris Bueller goes to talk to the scientist who designed the supercomputer AI, what does the supercomputer AI scientist say to Ferris Bueller? He says, I realized that every species has this life cycle, and we're just like the dinosaurs. It's our time to go away. So in the middle of War Games, there's this bizarre rant about Malthusianism, and the scientist is like, no, everyone needs to die. We actually need to have the AI set off a Cold War nuke scenario. Now again, War Games was still in the Cold War, right? So we know it fits into the whole scare the crap out of you Cold War stuff like Day After. But even though it doesn't reference the Breakaway Civilization, it's implied that the supercomputer at NORAD that is playing the war game is going to nuke everyone, and the world's going to end. America's done, and we got to start over. That was what was going to happen if they didn't stop the computer. Do you want to play a game? And thank God Ferris Bueller does it, right? Thank God. He puts in the codes, up, left, right, up, down, left, right, BA, select, start. Ferris Bueller puts it in, and he turns that stupid shit off. He hits the reset button on the Super Nintendo that's going to destroy the world in NORAD. NORAD is run by a giant Super Nintendo. And Ferris Bueller hit reset on it and started over, and we're all good. We're all safe. Thank you for not being a Malthusian, Ferris. And Ferris Bueller is a cool guy. He's a cool dude. He wouldn't be a Malthusian. That's exactly what we would expect Ferris Bueller to do. Now, there was something else. Oh, and then the other thing that I think is kind of implied is that they actually film War Games at NORAD. I mean, you can not maybe the I'm sure the inside of with that cheesy computer stuff is a set, but the exteriors and the entrance to the underground base that looks like NORAD, right? It looks like they're really filming that at NORAD. And I would venture to bet the Pentagon probably had some say or consultation in War Games. I don't know off the top of my head, but probably. I know enough about that kind of stuff to speculate that that's probably the case. But it's what's implied there is the continuity of COG agenda, right? And we know that's real because go back to PDD, was it PDD 60, Presidential Decision Directive 60 under Clinton, which is about continuity of government in the case of absorbing a first strike from Russia. Remember, that's real, by the way. That's real. PDD 60. So it's long been known there have been those government contingency plans, obviously, for these kinds of scenarios, right? Rex 84 type stuff. And the presupposition is that in the movie is that you better head to the underground bases. You better hope you have government access because, right, the frickin' Super Nintendo is about to kill us all, right? Snowpiercer, another example. Everybody, I'm sure, has seen Snowpiercer. That the train's yes, it's an allegory for the world and the system of society is like a train, and we gotta have balance and all this stuff. Yes, it is that. However, in the story, it's also a breakaway civilization, right? We know that there was some kind of atmospheric manipulation that went on, and it triggered this ice age. And now, for survival, everybody's in this perpetual motion machine of the train. Wilford, right? The Wilford train, the Wilford engine. And that's the breakaway civilization. And then, of course, everybody knows at the end of the film, the train derails, and they exit the train, and they've discovered that, oh, it's actually a lie. We could actually live out here. There's a polar bear. So it's not actually the case that you can't go outside. So breakaway civilization stories often have the theme, which is key to remember here, of a gigantic lie, a noble lie, perhaps, as Plato would have said. The society has to be governed by noble lies, and they're justified because that's how you govern society. There's no other way to corral these dummies than gigantic lies that can control them. That's what's in the Republic, the noble lie. In Snowpiercer, the noble lie is Ed Harris's tale of that you can't step outside because you'll die or whatever. You'll freeze to death. You can't breathe out there. And that's a lie. Well, noble lie comes up in a lot of these shows. Noble lie exists in the next one on my list, which is 12 Monkeys. In 12 Monkeys, isn't it a lie that you can't go above ground? I'm going from memory, but isn't it at the beginning implied that when Bruce Willis goes up there and there's life, right? Remember we just covered it, the goofy Michael Bay's The Island. The Island, another breakaway civilization movie, where the elite basically have this super secret underground system, base, gigantic thing, where they're cloning people. And it's a near future dystopia. And the clones are basically just sources of organs or bodies or whatever for the elite. But all of the clones, who are basically like children, they're innocent kind of, they're like the level of a 13-year-old or something, right? These teens, clone teens, are told this lie that you can't go outside of the base, the city, because you can't breathe the air. And it's all a lie. And then Steve Buscemi, right, he shows Ewan McGregor the butterfly. Well, if there's a butterfly outside, then it's a lie that you can't go out there. And this is, again, THX, Breakaway Civilization. We don't know what's happened in this story except that this civilization is totally underground, and you can't go up top because it'll kill you, and you got to just stay under your bot masters, who are like these, BDSM dominatrix cops who beat the crap out of you if you don't take your mandated drugs, right? And of course, THX is an amalgamation of many dystopian novels like Brave New World in 1984, but Lucas's first movie, right? Which is a great movie. And as you know, at the end of the movie, he breaks free, realizes it's all a lie, and he climbs up to the top out of the city, out of the base. And there's the sunlight. What is this myth? What is this story? Allegory of the Cave. Allegory of the Cave is a common theme in dystopian stories and films and TV shows, because the dystopia is almost always bound up with, and I think it's almost prophetic, right? It's almost always bound up with a gigantic lie and delusion. The whole society believes this stupid delusion. And the protagonist figures out this is a bunch of baloney, dude. And oftentimes, in concert with Plato's warning, they don't want to hear it. I don't care about the fact that there's an exterior to this cave. I'm very cool with watching the shadows on the wall. Shut up. I don't care about it. I don't want to go outside the cave. Leave me alone, dude. Leave me in the Matrix. And so, as you can imagine, people that say that there's no clothes on the Emperor, everybody wants to beat him up. Just like in Omega Man. In Omega Man, he figures out there's a serum that you can be healed from the disease. And all the disease weirdos want to kill Charlton Heston over that. Remember that? So I know we're happy being zombies. Please don't tell us anymore about these nice things. We want to be the zombies, and if you keep talking about a way out of this, we will kill you. That's what happens as delusion progresses. People love the delusion to the point of self-destruction, and they will kill you if you try to tell them to get out of the delusion. If you're looking for another couple examples of Plato's allegory of the cave in this type of format, City of Ember, which was a kids movie, which has Bill Murray, Saoirse Ronan. Not a bad kids movie, actually. The plot of this movie is Plato's allegory of the cave in a breakaway civilization underground that saved humanity from whatever was going on outside the underground base. But then the society developed a lie to protect everyone. And the people that live in the city start, obviously the protagonist and her, the kid and her friend, oh, this is a lie. We want out of here. And then the whole society is doing everything they can to enforce the lie so that they don't wake everybody up, right? Interesting theme here. And that same theme comes up in the book and show movie The Giver, right? He's like, dude, something's wrong with this. The society is based on a lie, and he starts to question it, and no, you can't question it, and if you do, you're evil. And it takes, the whole movie for him to basically get outside of this fake world that he lives in. These are all breakaway civilization dystopian stories with Plato's allegory of the cave theme, where the society is locked into a gigantic lie. And there are several TV shows also that have this thing. In the TV show Jeremiah with Luke Perry, and Luke Perry was like, no, not Jeremiah. Yes, Jeremiah. I get Jericho and Jeremiah mixed up. In Jeremiah, if you remember, is Luke Perry, right? Luke Perry eventually gets to the underground base, and it turns out that the government had the breakaway civilization, and they're behind the apocalypse. I'm pretty sure that's right. Remember that? And that was his show, right? So, and that probably only lasted it was only 2 or 3 seasons, right? If you've seen Jeremiah, you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. And then Jericho, remember that? Skeet Ulrich, the black dude that's in every TV show who plays, I think he's in Lost, and he's also in Walking Dead. The black dude that's in every TV show, he's in Jericho, and he's the government agent who was part of the collapse. And if you remember, in Jericho, when everything collapses, then there's like this weird like patriot stuff where they have like a Ron Paul Gadsden flag, New America that's set up. Remember that? And yes, The Stand also counts in this scenario, because the weird thing about The Stand is that the breakaway civilization is the people that get the stupid dreams from the black woman. Which that's kind of dumb. I mean, there's really interesting things about The Stand and also some things that are really stupid. I mean, the whole idea of it's a really good story. But the dreams thing and come to Colorado, that's really stupid. And like a giant hand that comes and gets that's so stupid, right? That if they had done The Stand right, it could have been great. That stuff's dumb. But and the TV movie with Parker Lewis and Molly Ringwald, it's actually fun to watch because it's goofy 90s. Right, like 91 too. I remember watching that when it came out too. It was a big deal. Everybody watched the Stand miniseries when it was on TV. But that's a breakaway civilization in a way. And then they go to Colorado. If you read the book, it's a weird, it's Americanist propaganda, because I'm guessing that Stephen King, so this is Cold War II, right? Because he wrote that in what, like 79, 80, something like that. And so the Stand is like, maybe he wrote it early 80s, I don't remember. It would be situated in the Cold War. And so that would also fit into this idea of, we're all going to die. It's inevitable. It's coming. The captain trips is going to get loose. That's the plot here. Fits perfectly into the Cold War fears. There was actually talk too of the Soviet biowarfare research. Now, how real that was, I don't know, but the CIA was actually using that as propaganda in the Cold War. It's mentioned in the Americans too. It comes up in Annie Jacobson's book. She has a whole chapter on biowarfare in the Cold War. I think so, yeah. And that was actually, so DARPA was saying, we have to do this, right? We've got to do all this biotech, biowarfare research because the Soviets are doing it. And that was the justification for everything. Oh, the Soviets are doing it, so we got to do it, right? And then I'm sure in the USSR, it was, we must do this because the American pig imperialists, they are doing this. They're doing the mind control. Therefore, we must do the sci-fi research. Right? It would be the same, I'm sure. So, but the reason I'm saying all of this is to point out that when I read The Stand, and I read it in the 2000s, I never read it in the 90s, I read it in the 2000s, and I was already like awoke to everything in the 2000s for the most part. So I was able to recognize The Stand as propaganda, because when you read the novel, when they get to Colorado, when they reconstitute the U.S. Do you remember that part in the novel? It's so dumb, dude. It's so freaking cheeseball. And it's like the most Americanist, just stupid, low IQ, like, it's like a social justice, new world order democracy that they set up in Colorado. It's so dumb, dude. It's so dumb. But if you doubt me, go back to the Stand novel. Go to the part where they reconstitute and rewrite the Declaration of Independence. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I promise you, you'll see what I mean. So that has to be propaganda, right? It has to be. But we will count The Stand in this list. Yes, definitely. They Live. Everybody knows They Live. We've covered They Live. Not going to rehearse They Live. But if you have forgotten, the aliens invite you to the underground base, and if you sign on, they make you wealthy. Because remember the bum? The cynical bum that John Nada meets in the homeless encampment, the tent city. Remember that guy? He's like, oh, it's a bunch of baloney. This guy, when the signal breaks through on the TV, he's like, oh, this is ridiculous. And then by the time that he gets to the underground base, when he sneaks in with a black dude, the bum is there. And the bum's like wearing a tuxedo. He's, hey, boys, I didn't know they'd recruited you. Let me show you around the place. Isn't it great? Why not have a taste of the good life, right? That sounds just like him, doesn't it? Jamie's in there giggling in the other room. So the bums you can be part of the Illuminate Confirm. Any hobos out there? Go sign up at your local. I got an email. I'll forward it to you from a guy who says that you can join the Illuminati if you call this number at the bottom of his email. Anyway, we won't spend a whole lot of time while They Live. Everybody knows that one. Maze Runner. Remember Maze Runner? Now, a lot of people probably didn't watch this. This is young adult stuff. And I actually met the author of Maze Runner in a bathroom. So he walked into the bathroom when I was in there peeing. And we kind of did the, nod, like, hey, in the bathroom that men do when you are seeing another man pee and you look over and you're like, hey. And you don't talk because, what are you going to say? How's it going over there? You peeing? Yeah. Glad to meet you. Your book looks fun. And so I was working at a bookstore, and he was doing his signing there. And I remember at the time, I was very much, into all the same stuff I'm into. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like a Breakaway Civilization novel for young adults. And the plot is like the government had a secret program to take teenagers to the Breakaway Civilization, and then they're being trained and prepared for. I never finished it, so I don't know how the series ends. They made these into movies, which were hit movies. And then I saw Maze Runner, and then I saw the Scorch Trials, and then I don't remember the last one, so I don't know if I've seen any of that. I don't know how it ends, but the point is, it's a Breakaway Civilization, but I don't know what the government was up to. But presumably the government was behind it. I'm guessing. I don't know. But I did get to wash hands and say nod after peeing with the author. So shout out to the Maze Runner author. I don't remember the guy's name, but he seemed like a nice guy. Let's see. Wayward Pines. A lot of people didn't like this show. I like this show. I don't know why it didn't continue. I guess just had low ratings. A lot of the FX has made some really good shows. The Americans, one of the best shows of all time. I thought Wayward Pines was great. I don't know why Wayward Pines didn't continue, except that maybe when it got into the season 2 and they revealed, they should have kept the thing about, I'm not going to spoil it if you want to watch it, but they should have kept the thing about season 1 longer, I think. Right? They could have really drawn out Matt Dillon not knowing what's going on. I think they showed that too soon. If they had drawn that out, it could have been like a long-running show. But the idea was great, right? Which is, I'm not going to spoil it. I can't. But basically, a police officer wakes up in a town far away, and everything's weird. There's very Twin Peaksy elements too, which I like. This like there's nods to Twin Peaks in this town. It's not anything really like Twin Peaks, the show overall, but there's these kind of nods and references to Twin Peaks, which I liked. Anyway, so I can't tell you much more else that will spoil the show, but I thought Wayward Pines was really good. Great idea. Surprised it didn't last longer. There's a couple more of those apocalypse TV shows. So there's BBC Survivors. There's Utopia. Everyone says, have you seen? Yes, I've seen Utopia. We're going to eventually do it. Not the US one. The BBC Utopia is good. It relates totally. BBC Survivors, Jericho, Jeremiah, Utopia. Oh, I never watched it. It's probably not very good. But remember J.J. Abrams' show Revolution? Remember that? So America loses power. Everything resets to like the 1800s. Right? But I've never watched Revolution. Don't know if it's any good. Probably has predictive programming in it. But if you remember, not many people watch the BBC Survivors show. Do you remember that? BBC Survivors was back in like mid 2000s, and that was about a 2-series show about bio scenario. Everything starts over. I did watch the whole show, but I don't remember what the resolution was. If this was the elite that did it, Usually in these stories, that's what it is. The elite did it, right? Okay, we did The Stand. Zardoz. Everybody knows Zardoz. We covered it. Logan's Run too. Plato's Allegory of the Cave type stories, right? The society is controlled by a lie. Postman, oh my gosh, dude, Postman was so bad. Jamie and I put that in like our terrible list. And Postman is like, stuff's getting better. Like Postman is so bad that Jamie constantly uses the lines from Postman. It's like she just interjects them at any point, and they're really funny. Jamie will just blurt out postman lines all the time. Stuff's getting better. I mean, if you're looking for a major motion picture release that is just unbelievably bad to the extent that it's funny, go watch The Postman. It's unbelievably bad. But it's so bad it's pretty awesome, actually. Like, it's funny. Couple more movies that are relevant. I guess you could say Doctor Strangelove, obviously, right? I mean, yeah, it's we're all going to go to our underground bases and we're going to have a harem of women and we're going to do this and but that's kind of what is going on in the Rand Corporation studies, right? I mean, this is like, if we do undergo collapse in the West, America, economic collapse, this will be like Rand Corporation engineered, studied, and planned for. And all of that continuity of government stuff, that actually comes out of Rand Corporation, mutually assured destruction, Cold War, Boomsday Clock. Remember this? The Doomsday Clock. Oh my gosh, that's the stupidest thing of all time. It's totally a classic example of psychological warfare. So much so, as you guys know, I did my hit single 3 years ago, The Boomsday Clock. I'm not joking. Like, I did do a video music experience. Some even said you could call it avant-garde experimental art, perhaps, right? Where I sang about the Doomsday Clock and the boomer attitude of the Doomsday. If you've not watched this, please go watch my Boomsday. It's a classic. It's a classic. Come on, guys. Have you not seen this? Can one of the beautiful, lovely mods put the Boomsday Clock song? I think it's still called that. I might have retitled it something else. Boomsday Clock. Now what comes up is Doomsday Clock. No. No algorithm. We want my song. And then it pulls up all this stupid shit. It's the most obvious boomer fear thing of all time. And of course, it's probably never going to come up. I don't even know if I may have taken it down to put it up on another. Can anyone find it? I might have retitled it something else, like Boomer Song. Can anyone find that? Oh, look at that. Dangerfield, always on point. Did you find it, Dangerfield? It said, oops. I can't remember if I took it down. Anyway, go watch it. It's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Let's see if that's it. That says that link's not working. I might have it set to where you can't put links up. I don't know. Let's see. Only J Dyer. That's right. That's right. That's about right. That's about right. That's about right. I don't understand why that says it doesn't work. Let's see. It's like it won't let me link it from the studio. Does that link work for you guys? Okay, so the link works for you. Okay, it's just it doesn't work when I click on it from the back end because it pulls up the studio. But if it works for you guys, there you go. The Boomsday Clock, total classic example of psychological warfare. Comes out of the Rand Corporation. It's Wolfstetter and all those neocon Rand Corporation goobers. Using the techniques of the Trotskyites, and yes, the neocons that went to the Rand Corporation were Trotskyites, and Trotskyism is a terror-based philosophy using terror and agitation to freak everybody out. I wonder why the whole Cold War nuke thing was freaking everyone out. Because a bunch of Trotskyites were using that technology, that psychology, to freak you out. It's in the freaking books. And Alex Abea's book says it's just bullshit. There's no clock that counts down when the world's going to blow up. Are you an idiot? Yes, you are, because anyone that believes that is an idiot. So stupid. But you know what they did was they would bring all these science dudes, right? Like they would bring the science men. They would bring the Neil deGrasse Tyson, like the Carl Sagans, right? The 80s versions of Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson. They would bring them on. The doomsday clock. Science has showed us that with absolute necessary, almost total certitude, that there will be an end to the world if we keep going forward as we are. So civilization cannot sustain the growth, the population, the scarcity of resources that we're experiencing now, and so we've made up this totally bullshit clock to scare the crap out of you, and it worked. I mean, it's the most ridiculous example, other than some of the ones I'm going to give you, of manufactured paranoia and fear bullshit. I mean, the doomsday clock is just like how does anybody believe that? It doesn't even make sense. Like, you're going to tabulate the things that, like, first of all the things that are used to tabulate are themselves the propaganda, right? So it's like the propaganda clock. Right? It's like the great example of, like, if we keep doing what we're doing, having babies, building businesses, using resources, drinking water, breathing air, carbon dioxide, right? We're moving closer and closer to the world's going to blow up. And guess what? The example that we're going to look at in part 2, sorry guys, we've been going for 2 hours, but this will be in part 2. You can subscribe at JaysAnalysis, get access to the part 2. We're going to cover alternative 3. This famous successor to Orson Welles' radio broadcast, the BBC's ridiculous fake mockumentary, Alternative 3, which duped a bunch of goobers in the 70s. Shocker, right? I mean, you watch this thing, it's like, who could fall for this? These are, like, if you're the BBC, don't you have a stable of Shakespearean actors that you could pull from? Even in the 70s, I would think. I mean, it's a gigantic government-funded propaganda entity that puts on high-quality productions nowadays. I mean, you had all this money. Couldn't you at least hire some decent actors to pull off the propaganda mockumentary? It's ridiculous, especially the astronaut. You're going to love the astronaut, the fake U.S. astronaut that they interview. It's like just some boomer from Texas who's like sitting there drinking Coors beer with some like 18-year-old blonde Playboy Playmate wife. He's like, yeah, I went up there on the moon and I'll tell you about it, but don't ask me no questions about the secrets now. I can't talk about the secrets of the moon. And if you ask me secrets about the moon, why, by gosh darn it, I'm going to fight you. Because that's how anybody from Texas or Tennessee or the South acts, right? They're literally, that's me, right? That's exactly what you see in me, is that guy. The boomer at the bar drinking Coors, that's me, totally, right? And that's all that there is in the South, is that guy. I mean, it's like, it's a Mystery Science Theater level. It's Riff Tracks level. This mockumentary that scared people. People actually believe this thing, right? It's so dumb, dude. It's like, imagine, so what it shows, it's a test case in, if we say that this is BBC and therefore authority, establishment, science, what will they believe? And presumably what they learned from this stupid thing is anything. Like, say the dumbest shit you could think of, say it's BBC and it's science, and they will believe it. And that's what Alternative 3 is. And it's also interesting, too, because some of the propaganda in that, well, we'll have to save that for part 2. We mentioned Zardoz. We mentioned the mockumentary. Also, honorable mentions. There's a few honorable mentions here, like the TV shows that don't have the Breakaway Civilization, but they have the other stuff. Oh, I forgot. Yes, Red Dawn. If you've not seen Red Dawn, everybody go see Red Dawn, because Patrick Swayze's nostrils flare to a degree that no one else has seen ever. It's a sight to see. And to watch Patrick Swayze weeping in a FEMA camp is a sight to see. That part is kind of funny, actually. Capricorn 1 is going to be in a show we're going to do in a little bit. It's not, well, it is. It's funny you said that, John, because I was just telling Jamie, you haven't seen Capricorn 1? That's like a conspiracy classic. So I was thinking of a separate podcast show to do on what are the conspiracy classics that you may not have seen, right? May not have seen. And we came up with a lot of the younger crowd may not have seen Mel Gibson's Conspiracy Theory. A lot of people have not seen Capricorn 1, amazingly. It's kind of like, that's like one of the conspiracy classics. How have you not seen that? I forgot what I put on that list. What did we put on that list? The conspiracy classics that you may not have seen. Network. And what else? F for Fake. So F for Fake gets an honorable mention because who would know better about PsyOps and the fake in terms of these presentations than Orson Welles? And a lot of people don't know that Orson Welles pioneered the mockumentary genre with F for Fake. Have you not seen F for Fake? That's a classic. Now, see, I thought about 3 Days of the Condor, but I think a lot of people have seen that. That's not, we want kind of obscure for different audiences. Now, probably a lot of the Zoomy crowd hasn't seen 3 Days of the Condor. I couldn't get Jamie to watch. She fell asleep, but we'll try again. We'll give her some chalk.com and make her watch 3 Days of the Condor. But yes, Brainstorm is a good one. Parallax View is a good one. A lot of people haven't seen those or not aware of those. We've done Jacob's Ladder like 3 times. I've done like 3 podcasts on Jacob's Ladder, so I'm not going to redo that. But yeah, definitely go watch F for Fake. It's not a conspiracy documentary. It has nothing to do with Breakaway Civilizations. It's Orson Welles presents a documentary that has 3 stories, and what does he say? 2 of them are fake. So you don't know which one's real. And then by the end of the documentary, it's about him showing you that media and movies are lies. That's the point. And he even likens it to stage magic, right? To sleight of hand and deception. And he talks about how the tricks and principles behind stage magic and sleight of hand are the same thing as principles and tricks that are used in film. And it applies quite obviously to media, right? He's not just talking about movies. He's talking about also media and how documentaries, right, attempt to give you the truth, and documentaries can be propaganda. That's kind of the point here, right? Honorable mention could include the Magus. We get the impression that even though it's not a end of the world scenario, Conchise and his elite zillionaire friends, they have a breakaway civilization, and their style of operating is totally foreign to Nicholas, right? Nicholas has no idea he doesn't understand this. He's bumfuddled by everything that Conchise organizes. And then aren't we supposed to think that his girlfriend was in on it too at the end? I think I'm going from memory here, but the book is a lot better than the movie. But the movie is not bad, right? Michael Caine's not bad in that. This has a lot of tomfoolery, right? He's not bad in that. It's a good movie. It gives you the idea of what's going on here, and the whole movie is about deception, psyops, lies within lies, onion layers of lies. The Magus could be a test case example in deception, geopolitics, espionage, psychological warfare, and layers of lies. If you've not seen the Magus, come on, dude. Seriously. So now there's no underground base fortress, but there's an elite zillionaire class, right? That Nicholas is not a part of and can't understand. Very reminiscent of Bill Harford in Eyes Wide Shut, right? When he encounters the elite cult, he realizes like, oh wait, that's a power structure way above me that I didn't even know about. Right? So he's freaked out. Not a Breakaway Civilization, but it is an elite cast, a set apart type of thing. Honorable mention there also could be the Village. Maybe not. I keep going. I don't know about that one. I mean, it's a Breakaway Civilization. They think that it's the end of the world. It's not, but there are some interesting psychological elements to The Village. I'm not really sure why everyone hated that movie. I never thought it was a bad movie. In fact, one of the reasons I like it is that I had an idea for a story similar to it. So every time I hear people dissing The Village, I'm like, man, you guys are kind of dissing the idea I had. So I don't think it's that shitty of an idea. I think it's actually a good idea to have like an Amish cult that like, you know, is off grid, and then they create this crazy lie that everyone believes. And I don't know. I thought it was all right, right? The Village is really only relevant for the Plato's allegory of the caves element, right? It's a Breakaway Civilization. They're using the lie to keep everybody in control. And then the Bryce Dallas Howard character, you know, figures out it's a lie, and she gets out, right? That element is interesting. It's applicable to the way that cults operate. Prisoner, yes. There's the Breakaway Civilization elite thing that has total technocratic, all-seeing eye surveillance there. But there's not, that I recall. So the Prisoner, right? It was a huge section of my book. We can't get into the depths of the Prisoner right now. We will perhaps, but it needs to be its own whole show, right? And there's so much in that it could be a whole podcast. You could do a whole season of a podcast on the Prisoner, one of the best shows of all time. If you've never seen the Prisoner. You need to watch it. It's very philosophical, very conspiratorial, very much the world of espionage, also esoteric. It's a critique of many things, including technocracy. It's a critique of dialectics during the Cold War. It's a critique of the Western British Anglo ethos, I think. It's a critique of a lot of things. And kind of amazing that they made that. It's kind of like, really? They even made that? I mean, could you imagine something like that being made now? They would never make something like that now, right? AMC actually did remake it, which I'm not going to recommend that one because, as you can imagine, it had to be morally changed, if you can catch my drift there. I already mentioned Logan's Run. Logan's Run was mentioned as a Plato's allegory of the cave lie, technocracy myth that he breaks free from. And that's a chapter in my book, as is Zardoz in the first book. So this is all, come on guys, y'all know this is Esoteric Hollywood 1 stuff. Y'all all know this. This is all from my first book, dude. Interstellar is a Breakaway Civilization. I just remember that. And that's weird because I've been thinking about Interstellar. I don't know why. Oh, I know why. Because our buddies over at PsyOP Cinema, they have done 2 episodes of their excellent podcast. Shout out to the PsyOP Cinema guys. Really great podcast. Go check out their podcast over on iTunes. They're buddies of mine. They had me on for 2 hours to discuss the movie Come True, and really good deep dive on that one. But they did 2 installments on Nolan, which was really good. I think 2, or they've done 2, maybe 3. I don't know. Anyway, they discussed Interstellar, And so I've been thinking about Interstellar for the last couple of weeks. And then I was thinking about Matthew McConaughey and the ridiculous elements of that movie, but then also the interesting elements of that movie, right? So trust me, I understand. There's two things going on at once in Interstellar. It's at once this completely ridiculous, stupid movie, but also at the same time this weird programming Breakaway Civilization movie too. Anyway, that is a Breakaway Civilization movie, right? Because Earth is dying from whatever crop problems. I don't remember what it is, Dust Bowl or something. And the technology, right? I think it's implied that the genetic engineering has ruined the plants. And doesn't it say something like that? So basically Monsanto has screwed up all the farming. Bill Gates has ruined all the corn. No more popcorn because of Bill Gates. And then Matthew McConaughey is part of NASA. Give me a break, dude. He's part of NASA. He's going to take that. He's going to take a Lincoln into space. He's part of NASA, and he's part of the Breakaway Civilization, and they're going to have to go on this spaceship, Breakaway Civilization. Remember that? I can't believe I forgot. Yeah, Matt Damon's like a total douchebag, right? Isn't he the douchebag on Mars? But yeah, it's a Breakaway Civilization. It's so Breakaway Civilization that Matthew McConaughey breaks away from 4 dimensions. Matthew McConaughey goes into the Tesseract dimension to break away, right? And then he's on the other side of the bookshelves, right? Talking through the books, saying, I love you. I just want to say that I love y'all. Love overcomes the limitations of time and space. That's it, Murphy. Love loves everything. Right? It's like the plot is just Beatles songs, right? Love's all you need. Literally, the plot of Interstellar is just the Beatles song. Love is all you need. But that is a Breakaway Civilization movie, and it does imply everyone dies from Gil Bates's GMO corn or whatever. Other honorable mentions: Melancholia. Melancholia, I didn't like this movie. I didn't think it was that great. I'm willing to give it another chance because I saw it when it came out. There was some amazing cinematography within like the first 10 or 15 minutes. Some of those shots, the way he did that of Kirsten Dunst is pretty awesome. But then the movie is like, let's listen to the next 2 hours of people's boring ass conversations before the asteroid destroys Earth. What? No, come on, dude. Blast from the Past, honorable mention. By the way, I don't like any Lars von Trier. Is there a good Lars von Trier movie? People over the years have really tried to convince me that I should like Lars von Trier, and I'm like, this stuff is gross, dude. This dude nasty. What? No. Is there a Lars von Trier movie that's good? Tell me the one that I need to watch that's actually good. I'm willing to give it another chance. I'm not going to watch Antichrist. That's gross. I'm not going to watch that other one about the sex disorder one. I'm not watching that. So I don't know where I'm not. Then Dogville, didn't like that. What? Why is this supposed to be good? I don't understand. Do you remember the? You know the shot I'm talking about? Like, there's these really cool shots. They look like paintings at the beginning of Melancholia. So, like, the first 10 minutes of Melancholia, wow, this is a really good. This is fascinating. And then it just turns into like boring conversations at a wedding party when they know that is that what you're going to be doing when the asteroid's going to hit? Is like we're at the ELE, right? It's Coast to Coast is real, right? Coast to Coast by George Norrie. There's going to be an extinction level event, folks. We're going to have an extinction level event. Let's just sit around and drink champagne and tell boring stories. At least do some impressions. At least play freaking tiddlywinks or charades. We're not going to be sitting around talking about, I don't know what they're talking about, periods, boring shit. I don't know what they're talking about, but it was dumb. See, there you go. Silver Bullet feels me on that. They didn't like Melancholy was bomb. But that there's like 3 cool shots in Melancholy. That's it. We said Red Dawn. That's not an honorable mention. That's in the actual list. Any more honorable mentions? I don't think so. I think I got Zardoz. Honorable mentions. No. All right, so that's enough for the first half. Let's get to those super chats. Shout out to our super sponsor, chalk.com. Definitely check out the Tomcat. Definitely check out the daily. And also, I'm going to test out this week the Action 2.0. And that deals with increasing energy, mitochondria assistance. Definitely need some assistance in my mitochondria. I need more midichlorians. And did you know that your mitochondria produces midichlorians? That's a fact. 100% science proof. It enhances also oxygenation. So we're going to test out the Action 2 this week. But I can confirm that I am enjoying the daily and the Tomcat. I've also tried 7 Wonders. I am going to try out the Irish Moss as well. So I kind of alternate these. But guess what? You can get 40% off right now if you use J40, right? J40. There's the code, and that's for anything, literally anything, and all their stuff's organic. Just trust me, dude. Check it out. It works. And do not take 3 Tomcat in one day. Do not do that. I did that, and I couldn't sleep. I mean, like literally, I couldn't sleep, and it was not good. So they work. She's a super chatty. Going down. Electric, going down to Electric Avenue. Oh no! I'm trying to scroll down to the super chat. Okay, here we go. Here's the first one. Kill stream for $10. I watched the T-Jump debate. Oh no, I'm sorry. Several times. That was the most satisfying video I've ever watched for amusement. You need to rethink your criteria of amusement, bro. Because although I participated in that and I would like to promote my own content, if that's the best example ever for amusement in your life, you need to work on that, bro. You need to work on that. But that's okay. Thank you. Also, I wondered, did you specifically see the MT coming as a cloak? Oh, did I talk about, how do we rephrase this for this audience, for this soft-hearted audience here? Did I talk about in the past, in the global book series, the medicine element? Yes, for many times. In fact, the book Turning Point by Fritjof Capra, which was one of our global elite books, was about that. Now, if you had listened, if you had gone through the Global Elite PhD series and gotten your PhD from me, you would have known that. But that's okay. We do have some grace and mercy for those that don't know everything here. And so, you're forgiven. Palantir, $5. Jay, this is off topic, but does orthodoxy hold to compatibilism, incompatibilism, or neither? I assume that you mean in terms of divine sovereignty and free will. Clearly, orthodoxy would be a form of compatibilism, that our free will is not destroyed by the sovereignty and foreknowledge of God. How exactly both of those work together is somewhat of a mystery, but we are finite, so there's not any exhaustive answer to that question, other than that Scripture reveals both that man has free will and that God is sovereign. The Green Feathers, $50. Woo-hoo! Woo! What up, Jay? Another great topic tonight. I would really enjoy hosting you for a talk on my channel, Green Feathers. Okay. I will look over your material, and assuming that you do not have schizoid, insane level material there, which I assume that you don't because you are an Orthodox channel. However, I will check your channel, dog, since you gave me $50. And if it does not look like Schizo Spurgberg, if you're not in Spurgatory, I will come on your channel. If you're down, let me know and what your rate is. I don't charge people to have me on podcasts. Although being a diva at the e-celebrity level that I am at, I probably should charge you at least a Bitcoin to make at least a 5-minute appearance. But you know what? For you, I'm gonna go easy. I'm gonna give you a discount, bro. I'm gonna do a good thing for you. I'm gonna come on your podcast for as long as you want for just 1 Ethereum. How's that? I'll make a deal. Not a full Bitcoin. I'll come on anybody's podcast for 1 Ethereum. Orthodoxy Chloroquine, $10. Good show, Jay. Do you ever worry about being a targeted individual because you're exposing these things openly? Thank you. God bless. Well, everybody is going to be a targeted person. So in regard to that topic, I would say that I kind of agree with Alex that if you don't speak your mind, it's going to be everybody. So it's like, it's not me, dude. The Klaus has everyone in his crosshairs. Does that make sense? Palantir, $5. Another question. What is your personal advice for people who study clandestine events to avoid falling into rabbit holes? I've noticed that when someone's paradigm gets shifted or shattered, they can go into opposite or crazy directions. Absolutely. In fact, Jamie and I were just talking about this today. The best tools for not going into crazy nonsense conspiracy world and land, which we saw heavily in the last few years, aka Q crap, which I always said was crap from the very day it appeared. We need things like being grounded in basic critical thinking, right? You need to go watch Father Deacon's epistemology classes. Literally, go watch his Philosophy 101 classes because you're going to get grounded in logical thinking, critical thinking. That's an actual discipline. It's a thing that you go learn. Philosophy is not just people sitting around and like thinking about and talking about the Matrix. That's what we do here for you, to introduce you to philosophy. Then you go, when you level up in your nerd hit points to the next level, then you go learn real philosophy, meaning learn the basics of epistemology, critical thinking, logical fallacies. Because guess what? As we saw in last night's episode when Jamie and I covered every conspiracy ever, we saw it was about half and half, right? Roughly speaking, right? Ratio, about half of the top 100 conspiracies that we covered are either real, true, or partly true. And then the other half is just total tard schizo stuff. Just dumb. Like, why would you even think that, right? So there you go, right? You got about half and half. And what was the thing that, number one, we were talking about? Critical thinking. So just common sense logic, common sense avoiding fallacies is one way to sweep away a huge portion of BS. Now, not everything, because some things are very sophisticated, very complex, and it's going to require a little more research and digging in to get to the truth of the matter in clandestine events. Sure. But sometimes things like Occam's razor might help. Now, atheists, they go crazy with Occam's razor, and they think that it's like this self-evident thing that proves everything in atheistic materialism. That's ridiculous. Okay, Occam's razor is a limited thing, which applies in some cases, right? But in things like clandestine events, a lot of times Occam's razor can be useful because it's probably more likely, right, that what happened in X clandestine event is the most likely scenario, the most likely to gain most likely, actors in this scenario, whatever. That's probably what it is. It could be more sophisticated. It could be 66-dimensional chess, but that's less likely than the simpler explanations for the event. Is it possible space beams did 9/11? Maybe that's possible, but it's not very likely. It looks like a controlled D. So what's more likely, right? Again, doesn't prove it 100%, but more likely. So those are some elements of control factors for our analysis in clandestine events. And at the same time, too, remember, in some of these events, we're never going to know. Okay, nobody except whoever boomer was behind it is going to know everything about JFK. There's just too much BS and disinformation out there. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't know the government's lying and, kind of have a rough idea. But I don't know who. It's just so clouded when it gets to a point where there's like a zillion books. How are you ever going to read and get through all of the JFK information? You can never do it. There's not enough time in your life, right? And the same with the big non-event. I mean, is there anybody that's going to know everything about all of it? It's just too much, right? But that doesn't mean that I guess the official story. No, it's all bull, right? It's all a bunch of baloney. So what are the best, what are the scenarios where we have the most evidence? What are the scenarios that are most likely? What is the big picture? Those are the ways to look at it, right? Sonny Crockett, $1. Perhaps the end has happened, and we are currently in the part of Revelation when Satan comes out to play. I don't think so. I think there's multiple things in Scripture that are spoken of as to happen before that. So I wouldn't jump to we're in chapter 12 of the book of Revelation. No, I don't think so. The powers that be are using Revelation as a playbook in furthering their agenda to fool Christians into complacency. To a degree, yes, they do that. Rapture, baloney, that's a big part. That's a great example of psychological deception. Religious manipulation. Religious engineering, exactly. Which, by the way, the PsyOP Cinema guys have done some really good episodes on religious engineering. Marta, $10. I'll ask questions in 2 years if I catch up on all your videos. Here's money for a little flower for Jamie. Jamie, I assume she means to put flowers in your head. Dark flowers in our hair. We are the children of the sun. I'm guessing that was the reference to Dead Can Dance. Orthodoxy chloroquine, $90. Dang, boy. I hope, are you paying your electric bill, bro? You better. Throwing all those super chats at me, you better be paying your electric bill, boy. But thank you. I assume if you are doling out them super fats like that, this boy's Bitcoin rich. That's what I think. I meant to send 100, not 10. Okay, fair enough. So that amounts to 100. Thank you for what you do. It's even more important than people understand the essence, energy, and person nature distinctions. Yes, fundamental to theology. Since much of the spiritual degeneracy coming together relies upon perennialism and the variations of absolute divine simplicity. Yes, in fact, hopefully everybody saw the video that I posted from, I don't know what, it looks like an evangelical show, but Next News Network, I don't know what that is, but they had a video about Pope Francis's One World Religion Center that he's signed off on, where I don't remember if it was UAE or New York. They're going to have this the Abrahamic Religious Center. So Judaism, Christianity, Islam are a thing now. Okay, that's perennialism and natural theology. Like, that's literally the presupposition of natural theology, and yeah, we'll be having that debate soon. Jay Poppy, $20. Jay, off topic, but I'm interested in hearing your take on 1 Kings 28, that Samuel was called up by the Witch of Endor. No, I believe that the Witch of Endor really called up Samuel. I mean, that's why she's surprised when he's there, right? So I think God allowed this because we know the Old Testament saints were in Abraham's bosom, which was the good part of Hades, before Jesus descended into Hades. So I don't see why it would be. To me, the most natural reading of the text is that the Witch of Endor actually calls up Samuel. So it wasn't a demon in my view. Slowbo, $5. Thank you, sir, as always. Well, thank you, Mr. Slowbo. I'm assuming that's short for slow boy. But if you're paying me $5, you're a fast boy. Vladimir Kranick. Vladimir Kranick. I'm getting kind of mush brained here. My mind is turning to mush. I've been talking too long. Have you heard of Jason Georgiani? He has a audacious hypothesis about UFOs in his book, Closer Encounters. It's really out there. It's the top new material regarding this topic. You should look into it. From what I hear of this guy's theories, it sounds preposterous. So, no, I don't believe that aliens are Aryan beings or whatever. I don't know what his theory is, but no. Hugh Jackman, $10. Requesting the beloved booger whistle impersonation. Your stockings. This is stockings about the Oshos. Oshos is very mystical. Is very mystical with the booger whistles. So there's your Osho as per your $10. Mr. Blackwater, $25. Thank you so much for your work. So we got Dave Chappelle and Blackwater in the house. So we got defense contractor, or private security, and we've got Dave Chappelle in the house. Wow. Marles Chanson, great name there. Hey Jay, you won't talk about me, I'll talk about you, son. I'll talk about you to your mama in my mind. There's my Chaz Manson, baby. Shout out to my boy Chaz. Christopher Tony Christopher Morelli, $1.83. Oi. That's all he says. Oi. J Poppy, $10. I understand the position that evil has no ontological status, as it is just a separation from the good. But what about sin? It's the same thing. Sin is evil. It's just sin is a specific usage of the word evil, which is a moral violation of one of God's commands. So sometimes evil can be used in a privative sense of a lack, right? It was an evil that he didn't have both of his eyes, right? It was an evil that the storm, knocked out the power. But those are not moral evil, right? Moral evil is sin in the sense of I have erased all of my copies of Leonard Part 6, and that was a moral sin. It was evil to do that because it's the greatest movie of all time. And why would you erase the greatest movie of all time? I was told by my priest that in Old Testament class, I was told by my priest in Old Testament class that sin does. I don't know what that super chat means. Sin does. I don't know. Anyway, that's my answer, is just that sin is a move of the will away from the good, a move of the will against God's commandments. That's all. Pano Costuros, $1. Do a George McFly laugh. I can do the get your damn hands off her, but I don't know how he laughs. How does he laugh? I don't remember. So sorry, Pano. For $1, all you get is the best I can do with Crispin Glover. Cruce Bamble, $2. I love your chill streams. That's all of them. So thank you. Would you debate destiny on politics? No interest in that at all. I'm sure it would easily derail into political philosophy and then worldview philosophy. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'd love to see you crush him, and he has a large audience. not going to do that, but thank you. Jordan, $3. Mike E. talked about government agency corruption and how they recruit creeps and pervs. Yeah, I covered that in one of the recent MKUltra talks that we did. Was I dug up John Marks has an essay, a long essay that he published in a psychology journal about John Gittinger and John Gittinger's role in MKUltra, right? So the whole personality assessment stuff was all part of MKUltra, and that's in John Marks' essay. And the essay points out that back then they had a program separate from the serial killer Dave McGowan Phoenix program stuff, recruiting creeps and deviants. So yeah. Brian Gumble, $1. You rock man learned a lot tonight. Me no rock man, me real man. I laughed uncontrollably. Man, you get a hold of that, boy. You start doing that, people are gonna think you like the Joker. Remember Joaquin Phoenix on that damn subway? And he just starts laughing. People are not gonna like you if you start uncontrollably laughing, bro. You debated Matt Dillabunty. Dat Millabunty. And you said that, you laughed when I debated Dat Millabunty and he said debate rules. Well, I'm glad you liked it, but I don't know what you're referring to, but I'm glad you like that. I don't give a damn about classical debate. The look on your face right after that made me spit up my coffee. Oh, he said that to me when I said about debate rules. I don't give a damn about classic debate. Did he say that? Somebody should clip that and put that up. I mean, that's like, he's a meme generator of comments like this. Like, people are going to look back and go through the catalog of Matt Dillahunty, and it's going to be like a star-studded array of meme level statements like this, right? Remember Lewis's video on Orthodox Shahada, where like he just gets called out all the time, and he doesn't even understand that he's not making arguments. Like, he'll do these psychological descriptors. He'll do these appeal to psychological states as if they're arguments, and everybody calls him out on this. So I don't even remember him saying, I don't care about the rules of classical debate. He said that. That's as bad as I have value because monkey have value. Whoa. How do I survive a breakaway scenario? Well, you just join the Illuminati. Frank, $10. Frankie D, $10. How do I survive it? Join the Illuminati. Also, the Battle Angel movie. Battle Angel has a Breakaway Civilization? Interesting. I didn't know that, and I haven't seen Battle Angel. And then you said also Out of Time with J-Tim and Amanda Seyfried. Now, I have seen that, but I didn't remember if it had Breakaway Civilization themes, but I guess it does. But so thank you for that, Frankie D. Copenhagen, $10. Have you seen the Abrahamic Family House Project? Yes, I just shared the video on the community tab. Go watch it. Shared it on my Twitter. Shared it on my Telegram today. And it's everything that I've been talking about. So, again, I don't know how the Catholics aren't seeing this. Bro, you said it is New Age Ecumenism 2.0. Yeah, of course it is. That's what it's always intended to be. A global world religion that is a fake religion. Wooden Moon Rocks, $5, and he says absolute silence. Well, if we put our ears up to the moon rocks, we will hear silence because the moon rocks are fake. And that's actually in the mainstream media. That the moon rocks that have been gifted to various people are fake. Look it up. Achy Breaky Civilization, $5. Have you done a talk or video on NASA shenanigans. Yes, many of the old Hoaxbusters episodes are that. So you would have to dig in the archives. But yes. And then actually we've done a couple boiler rooms back in the day on that. Yeah. But it's in the archives, bro. Vivel Barnva. Wait, Vivek. Hold on. Vivek Barnva Sainandi. I wonder what country that dude's from. They took the stones from there. He says, I can't wait to see who wins the Great War. I know who I'm rooting for. Just remember, lads, Christ is the ultimate victor. Well, absolutely there. Shout out to our boy Vivek Barnvasanandi. And he is coming to us straight from the Bible Belt and not India. I'm just kidding. He's probably in India. Hey, Jay, what do you think of my content? I value your opinion a lot. Please share your thoughts about my comedy. Thank you, Dave Chappelle. I'm going to guess that that's probably not the real Dave Chappelle. $3? Come on, bro. If you're the real Dave Chappelle, you could at least toss a good $30 my way. But $3? But what do I think of Dave Chappelle? I mean, everybody knows Chappelle's Show was a classic. The skits are still funny to this day. One of the best sketch comedy shows of all time. The stand-up comedy of Dave Chappelle was at its peak in the period of early 2000s. At the time of Chappelle's Show, that was my favorite stand-up that Dave Chappelle did. As everyone here knows, I'm not a big fan of stand-up anymore because stand-up pretty much sucks and they won't let people do stand-up anymore. So it's just, I like sketch comedy. So, I definitely like Chappelle's Show. But I've not heard any of the recent stand-up shows of Dave Chappelle. However, I am glad that he is saying true things in the recent specials. And I did hear clips. So, that's what I think of Dave Chappelle, but I don't believe that that's the real. Although we have had the real Kathy Ireland around here. So maybe that's the real Dave Chappelle. But if it is, then yes, you are definitely one of the best stand-ups. J Poopy, $20. Just wanted to clarify that it's J Poopy. The poop is key to getting a laugh. Is it, though? My priest said sin does not have ontological status and exists in form as it physically changed the land in the Old Testament. I don't know what that means. Sin exists in form as it physically changed the land of the Old Testament. I don't get that. So again, I'm mystified here. I don't understand how the land itself, humans themselves, my will as a faculty itself is not evil. If I use my will for bad, it doesn't make the will itself bad. Do you see that distinction there? And so in the same way, sin, oh, maybe you mean that the land is polluted. Yeah, but that would be in the sense that there's spiritual evil there. And so in that sense, there are evil angels, right? Demons that use their nature for evil. But even the nature of demons is not itself evil. And again, this is because everything that God created, insofar as it has the nature it has, is good. Think of weapons, right? If I use my sword and I go to the park and I'm there with the LARPers and they have their foam swords and we are out and I'm going to do my foam sword LARPing and I remove the foam and I have a real sword. And then I slice them all to pieces. Does the sword become evil? No, because inherently there's nothing evil about the sword, right? So evil doesn't have substantial existence. But evil can have a presence in the sense of spiritual evil, in the sense of people that are demonized by or energized by demonic powers or presences. In that sense, things can, quote, be evil. But that is not the is of identity. So learn the difference between is of identity and is of predication. And I'm not being a smart ass. I'm just literally saying that Palantir $5. With compatibilism question. I heard David Hume, an empiricist, try to reconcile determinism and free will during the Enlightenment, and thus my prior question. Well, but I mean, we're not coming from an Enlightenment paradigm, so we're not going to have a problem of free will and determinism because we have a revealed epistemology. And that's what you hint at next in your question is, what is the technical name of our epistemology? Yeah, it's theonomous. Theonomous epistemology. So go read in the Discord. I have posted the Russ Mannion essay on the contingency of knowledge. And Dr. Mannion's essay is a classic on that topic. And he says theonomous epistemology versus autonomous epistemology. And all of the man-centered systems, by default, are autonomous epistemologies. All right, that's it for tonight. I'm exhausted. We had a great crowd. Shout out again, chalk.com. Go and support our bros. Go check out the Action 2.0, 40% off right now. Tomcat, 40% off. Chalk Daily right now. Boost some tea. We got a lot of low teas out there in the world that need to become Mr. T's. You can become Mr. T by boosting your tea with the tea of Tomcat. And then the ladies could definitely benefit from a little Irish moss out there. A wee bit of the things that I can't talk about on this audience because of the soft hearts of YouTube. And Alternative 3. We'll be doing a test